Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services, including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server co-location, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Proudly serving the New England area, K&K Talent Partners provide a personalized approach to full-cycle recruiting services.
Their level of integrity and empathy is rare, and it speaks volumes about who they are as people and as recruitment partners.
Our goal is to build trusted relationships and to create genuine connections that help companies grow.
K&K Talent Partners, kktalentpartners.com.
At Martha's Vineyard Bank, we know Falmouth, with locations in Woods Hole, on Palmer Avenue, and the Village Green. We deliver personal banking tailored to your needs, business solutions to help you grow, flexible lending to move you forward, and investment strategies that work for you. Whatever brings you in, we're your local partner. Martha's Vineyard Bank, your goals, our guidance.
Okay, it is 6:30. I'm going to call the Town of Falmouth Select Board regular meeting for Monday, April 13, 2026. It is 6:30 p.m. I'm going to call it to order. I will note that member Jack Richardson is on his way, but we're going to start. We have a long agenda. So please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a reminder to please silence your cell phones and notify the chair if you're making a video or audio recording of this open session meeting. The placement and operation of the recording equipment should not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. And I will now turn to Vice Chair Goldstone for a proclamation.
A proclamation in honor of the Shining Sea Bikeway Day, April 25th, 2026. Whereas the Shining Sea Bikeway was established in 1976 after nearly a decade of sustained and dedicated advocacy, planning, and collaboration, this achievement stands as a testament to the collective vision and commitment of the entire community and the strong partnership between town staff and residents. And whereas the Shining Sea Bikeway stands as a cherished resource for residents and visitors, offering a scenic, safe, and environmentally safe route through our community. And whereas the Bikeway encourages healthy, active lifestyles, promotes local tourism, and fosters a sense of stewardship for our natural surroundings. And whereas the Bikeway sees over 350,000 trips per year by residents and visitors on bicycles and walking. And whereas the Shining Sea Bikeway, a jewel in the crown of Falmouth, is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its founding. Now, therefore, the Falmouth Select Board does hereby proclaim April 25th, 2026 as Shining Sea Bikeway Day throughout our community. We urge all citizens to celebrate by visiting the Bikeway, participating in cycling and walking activities, and recognizing the value this pathway brings to our lives. Let this day serve as a reminder of our commitment to active living, environmental appreciation, and community spirit. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the Great Seal of Falmouth to be affixed this day, Monday, April 13th, 2026. Yeah.
Does anyone want to come up with respect to the proclamation? Mr. Sylvia, no?
I'd like to thank the board for doing this. It's such a wonderful...
Come to the microphone, please.
It's a wonderful pleasure we have here. And I will reserve time for KJ. And actually, I'll call her over now.
Thank you. She did not have an accident on the bikeway.
No,
If anyone is concerned.
I have a new titanium hip. Thank you, Select Board, from the bottom of our heart. And please, I hope you can join us on April 25th when Friends of Falmouth Bikeways will have a celebration with free ice cream and music at Depot Station. So thank you very much.
What time is that, KJ?
2 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
All right. Do we have any recognition from any of the Select Board members? Mr. Brown?
I would just recognize, I don't know all the founders of that, the work to get that bike path started, but I know Joan Canwisher was one. She was a lady that I got to know in her senior years. So just thinking of her today, she's no longer with us, but a very nice job that they did to come up with that idea.
It certainly was. As far as announcements, I just want to mention that Farming Falmouth will be holding the fourth in its series tomorrow evening at the Herman Room from 6, I believe, from 6 until 7:30. There is a request that you register in advance as seating is limited. Anyone else with any announcements? Okay, we will move on to the town manager's report.
I have no announcements, no report for this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have some time for public comment. And I just will remind everyone that public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself. Since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the Select Board may not participate in the discussion of the topic. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to public comment this evening?
Thank you, Select Board. I'm Mike Jackson, a Falmouth resident and a board member of Chappaquiddick Yacht Club, or CYC. Thank you for considering our plans for use of the town dock in West Falmouth to provide public access to our youth sailing program. We no longer have access to the harbor from Chappaquiddick Island, which has grown increasingly private and exclusive. And for the first time in generations, youth sailing in West Falmouth was suspended last year while we developed a new plan. Harbor access is essential for both youth and adult sailing. CYC is a 501c3 community sailing organization. Membership is open for all ages. We're the only sailing organization in West Falmouth. We understand that there's no Select Board approval required for such use of a public access facility. However, we want to assure you that we're working diligently with the appropriate town authorities to relaunch the youth program from sailing floats moored in West Falmouth. CYC will offer a local, small-scale sailing program. Our restarted youth program initially would involve fewer than 12 children in total and could grow to 20 children for the morning and 20 for the afternoon sessions based on the sailing float capacity. Small and local means walking, biking, boating, and carpooling to get kids on the harbor and have minimal impact on parking and traffic. Finally, there's a long track record of community benefit. CYC has taught generations of youth sailors in the harbor and on the bay for more than 120 years. We're among the oldest sailing programs on the Cape. Our kids learn small boat handling skills, sailing, safety skills that last a lifetime. They and their families also learn how to protect and value our harbor in the process. Isn't Falmouth nice? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, but before we do, I would like to make an announcement with respect to item C under business, the vote with respect to the Seacoast Shores Association. I know most of you in the audience are here for that matter, as I understand it. Just want you all to know that this is not a public hearing. It is a renewal application, and we will hear from the applicant. They will be given 5 minutes for their presentation, after which time the board may ask some questions. We will then give 5 minutes to the Friends of Seacoast Shores Association, and then we ask questions, and then the board will deliberate. We will have no public comment from anyone in the audience. We have received numerous emails. We understand both sides of the issue, so we're not going to have any more public comment. You're free to stay, but I just wanted everyone to know that that's how we're going to proceed this evening, okay? So with that understanding, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is a rather lengthy one, so if I start coughing or something, please bear with me. Consider a vote to approve applications for renewal of seasonal licenses pending issuance of 2026 food service establishments, permits, and certificates of inspection. Seasonal all alcoholic beverages restaurant license, common victualler license, entertainment license, and Sunday entertainment license, Falmouth Raw Bar, Inc., DBA Falmouth Raw Bar, 56 Scranton Avenue. Seasonal all alcoholic beverages restaurant license and common victualler license, Quick's Hole Taquería, LLC, DBA Quick's Hole Taquería, 28 Water Street, Unit C. Number 2, consider a vote to approve an amended annual retail license certification for 2026 for the Falmouth Country Club, 630 Carriage Shop Road. Number 3, consider a vote to approve the application by Falmouth Community Veterans Center, 300 Dillingham Avenue, for a special one-day wine and malt beverages license for Saturday, April 18th, 2026, from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Number 4, consider a vote to approve a special one-day all alcoholic beverages license for Heroes in Transition, Inc. for the Ruck 4-Hit event at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds, 1220 Nathan Ellis Highway, East Falmouth, on Saturday, 4/25/26. Number 5, consider a vote to approve the application for a change of officers for 2026 by Falmouth Yacht Club, Inc., located at 290 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth. And number 6, consider a vote to approve an application from Buzzards Bay Coalition for a Sunday entertainment license for the Buzzards Bay Watershed Ride Finish Line event at the MBL Swope Center, 5 North Street, Woods Hole, on Sunday, 10/4/26, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Moving on to administrative orders. Number 1, consider a vote to approve and execute a confirmatory discharge of mortgage, 460 Lucerne Avenue. Number 2, consider a vote to approve and sign the land disposition agreements by and between the Town of Falmouth and Falmouth Housing Trust, Inc. for the properties located at 20 Brigantine Drive and 21 Pheasant Lane. And I will note to the Select Board members that both of those documents are in the sign binder, and would appreciate your vote, your signatures on them before you leave this evening. Number 3, consider a vote to approve a request from the Master Gardener Association of Cape Cod for a variance to Design Code Section 184-20, variances A through C, and Section 184-32, A through C, off-premises signs for the placement of 5 off-premises promotional signs for plant sale at Cape Cod Fairgrounds on 5/16/26. Number 4, consider a vote to approve a request from Falmouth Theater Guild for a variance to sign code section 184-32 and 184-30 for the placement of a sandwich board at the corner of Depot Avenue and North Main Street to advertise a theatrical production of James and the Giant Peach. Number 5, consider a vote to approve a request from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution for a variance to sign code Section 184-37D, wall and roof signs, and sign code Section 184-20, A through C, variance for a temporary promotional building wall sign in excess of 8 square feet on the Smith Laboratory High Bay wall.
Hold, please.
Number 6, consider a vote to approve a request from Spore Gardens Trust or a variance to sign code section 184-20 variances and 184-32 off-premises signs for the placement of 10 off-premises sandwich board signs advertising Daffodil Days at Spore Gardens, Fells Road from April 12th to 26, 2026. Number 7, consider a vote to approve a request from Buzzards Bay Coalition for a variance to sign code section 184-32 off-premises signs for the Buzzards Bay Watershed Ride event signs in Woods Hole on Sunday, 10/4/26. Number 8, consider a vote to approve a request from the Juneteenth Community Celebration Committee for a variance to sign code section 184-7 placement and 184-32 off-premises signs to hang 14 Juneteenth flags on light poles on Main Street. Number 9, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA, Eversource Energy, and Verizon New England, Inc. for permission to install a new JO pole to be labeled 206/45-75. This pole location is necessary to provide electric service to 55 Hall Lane in Falmouth. Number 10, consider a vote to approve applying for a small grant opportunity, $4,600, from the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries for green crab removal on Cape Cod. Number 11, consider a request from Cape Cod Guangping Tai Chi Quan Club for a waiver of the special event permit fee for the Tai Chi practices on Saturdays from April to December 2026 at Marina Park from 9 to 11:30 a.m. Number 12, consider a request from the Arts Falmouth, Inc. for a waiver of the special event permit fee for the Arts Alive event being held on Library Lawn in Peg Noonan Park from Friday to Sunday, June 12 to 14, 2026. Number 13, consider a request from Arts Falmouth, Inc. for a waiver of the special event permit fee for artisans at the harbor at Marina Park, band Shellside, close paren, on Thursdays from June 25th to August 27, 2026, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Number 14, consider a vote to approve the emerging contaminants in small or disadvantaged communities in EC SDC grant for conceptual design of the Hashumit Well, new source approval. And number 15, consider a vote to approve a request from the Falmouth Police Department to accept a donation of $2,000 for badges, as well as in-kind donations of dog food and treats and a 30% discount on canine-related items from Falmouth Pet Center in support of the Falmouth Police Department's reestablished K-9 unit. Do I have a motion with respect to the consent agenda except for item B5 and item B14?
Could you repeat that, Mr. Chair?
I said.
No, I was just kidding. Motion to approve with standing holds.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Mr. Reed, with respect to number 5?
I just have to recuse myself from the vote.
Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chair, I move approval of Administrative Order Number 5.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Dr. Goldstone, with respect to number 14.
Given first of all, the name of the grant title, Emerging Contaminants, and the history of the Hashumit Well, I just would appreciate a little bit more detail on what this grant to reactivate the Hashumit Well will entail.
Thank you. I had the same question. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Water Superintendent Matt Lannon to respond to that question.
So the additional funds from this grant will help expedite the process of the conceptual design to put this well back in service. It is a very long process. However, the initial funds were requested at Fall Town Meeting did not meet the full criteria to finish the project. When this grant opportunity came about, we decided to pursue it, and this is where we stand with it. This would be for all of the different parameters that we have to look at before we even conceptually design a treatment facility to put fresh, seasonal, and eschewment back online to have one additional plant for the community of Falmouth.
I guess that was kind of my biggest question, is what is that due diligence that we have to do to ensure before we reactivate that well that we actually are pumping clean water?
Yeah, so basically we have to take all the different variables, like what type of water it is, if it's raw, if the well is still active, any chemical analysis that all has to be reviewed, our pump data, that all has to be reviewed with Tate & Howard engineering firm. And then after we get to the conceptual design, then we can pursue getting new source approval for that well, but we have to have all those parameters in place before we can even move forward with DEP recommendation for new source.
And the amount of the grant?
I'm sorry?
Is there amount of the grant?
I believe it was $100,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, Mr. Lannon, could you remind me, what was the outcome? I think there was like $8 million appropriated by, was it Congressman Dillingham, I think? Or who was the, it was quite a while ago, I'm not sure who actually did it. But there was some large amount of funds that were put in place, I think by the federal government, in order to do carbon filtration there to eliminate the PFAS?
I'm not aware of that. Maybe that was before I started here. We do get temporary funds for fresh seasonal right now under a 3-year agreement that was reviewed with town council. So eventually, once the conceptual design is done, there's an agreement in place for the Air Force to build us a new facility at their cost.
Okay. Oh, I see. That's it. We got to get the
So we pay for the
concept.
conceptual design, military would pay for the actual.
I see. So the money's
plan.
probably still there. We just haven't accessed it.
It could be, yeah.
Okay.
I'll look into that, Doug.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Move approval of
Any
item
more
14.
questions? Move approval. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman. So we're going to move on to our first public hearing, and I'm going to ask Vice Chair Goldstone to read the notice.
Sorry, 1 second. This is always a challenge on this particular device.
Do you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
If you have it, sorry,
sure.
No,
I
it's
always
okay.
forget that I don't have the same navigation on these tablets that I do usually.
No worries. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Wicked Shuckers LLC, DBA Shuckers, has applied for a seasonal all-alcoholic beverages license to be exercised at 89 Water Street, Suite B1, Woods Hole, Mass. A common victualler license application has also been submitted. A hearing on the above will be held at the Falmouth Senior Center, Old Silver Surf Drive, 780 Main Street on Monday, April 13, 2026 at 6:45 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the application.
Mr. Chair, if I may, as the
I'm
applicants
sorry,
are approaching,
sure.
no problem. So I just did want to mention that the application has been received. It is complete. There was no concern raised by the police department or other staff members.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, and thank you to the Select Board for having us this evening. My name is Tom Holmes. With me is Robert Bell. So we purchased Shuckers Woods Hole, probably many of you are familiar with it, last year. We did not operate the restaurant last season. This will be our first season actually operating the restaurant. Previous to this, it had operated as Shuckers the way we intend to keep it for about 45 years.
We all know the establishment, I think, pretty much. Anyone have any questions of the applicant?
I'll make the motion because my parents met there.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any discussion with respect to the application? I think it's all in order. I think we know the establishment, so someone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Approval and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, thank you very much. Good luck. Okay, thank you. Okay, our second public hearing is to, well, I'll turn it to Dr. Goldstone.
All right, this time I actually have it up.
Okay.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Gordon Hospitality, Inc., DBA 4 Vines, has applied for a transfer of license for an all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license to be exercised at 291 Main Street, Unit B, Falmouth, Massachusetts. A common victualler license application has also been submitted. A hearing on the above application will be held at the Falmouth Senior Center, Old Silver Surf Drive, room 780 Main Street on Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 6:45 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the application.
Good evening. My name's David Lawler. I'm an attorney for the Gordon family. This is Kevin Gordon beside me. Just a brief history. You may be familiar with the Gordons. They've been partial owners of the Chart Room at Katomet for forever, and also have owned and operated the Chart Room in Osterville for over 10 years. They have a tremendous amount of experience in the business. Kevin's been in the business since he's been a little kid, starting as a dishwasher, working up to running Osterville, and then working in, as is his brother and his father. I believe we've met all the criteria of the application. I'm more than happy to answer questions and get into his qualifications, but I think the application is complete. And I know you have a very long night, so I don't want to just go on and on.
I think we're all familiar with what the location used to be.
The old Bluefin?
Yes.
It's going to be American Fare.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you
Yeah,
could
it's
just
going to be
give us a
American.
little
We
idea.
get a little free advertising here.
Yeah.
So they're going to take the opportunity, especially with the ABCC. It takes a while, and going into the summer season, they're going to fix it, get it right. So probably it won't be operating for, certainly the beginning of the summer, possibly not even until the fall. As you said, we're not just opening for this season, we're opening for all of them, and they want to get it right. They have a American fare, reasonably priced, excellent. The quality of the food in the other two restaurants has been, it's renowned, and they bring that expertise and experience. And I think it'll be a great fit for Falmouth, on Main Street where the Bluefin was. And they're very excited about, operating in Falmouth and with the Falmouth community.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions with respect to this application?
And we do hope that people...
I ever had.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. And the baked lobsters, they were incredible. And hopefully some people will meet and get married there too. So, yeah.
All right, well, if there's no one wants to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with respect to the application, is there any discussion amongst the board?
In the interest of hopefully future couples meeting, I'll make this motion too. And I move approval of this license as well.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you. All right. Surprisingly, we are ahead of our timeline here, but we will have a report from the Edward Marks Building Advisory Committee. We certainly appreciate the report. It's been our agenda of future items for a while, and we're finally able to get you on the agenda.
Yep. Let me just get it maximized for you.
Yeah, it's a little.
There you go.
Okay. Not too much space. Push that up. Excuse me. Sorry? What did you say?
Do you want me to advance the slides for you?
Nah, it's just. Yeah. Okay, got it. Lots of presentation stuff.
All right, well, take your time.
Think of this as an
We need-
antique presenting.
Can't hear you without the mic, please, sorry.
Oh, you need this internally? That's not
No.
just for film?
We
Yeah.
need everyone who speaks to use the mic.
People at home listening too.
Oh, I know that part. Okay, hi, I'm Barbara Wand. I'm the chair of the committee that has been working for the last 6+ years now on the renovation, restoration inside and outside of the poorhouse. And I do have something to share. Because every year there's new members. Those are my last 3 copies.
Okay.
So I asked you to pass them around. Because we have new select board members every year, I just want to do a very, very short bit of repetition. I'd like you to think of the poorhouse / Edward Marks building as the opposite end, not only of the street, but of the economy. And back in colonial days, it was required that every town in any colony have some services for the poor. Let me explain further that by the word poor, that could be anything like a widow with children whose husband never came back from an expedition on the sea. It could be a person who is mentally disturbed. It could be somebody who is disabled. It's just a big, it embraces a lot. And alcoholism, I'm sorry, was a big issue. So that also, any addiction. So every town was required to have this. The picture you have up on the screens right now is a photo that was taken in 1888. So it is late relative to the main block of the building, which is the late 1700s, and then an addition, which you'll see, which is around roughly 1825. So we're talking about a very old building, and several years ago, the town made an agreement with the Mass Historical Commission that in order to get funding for restoration, it would allow for a preservation restriction, it's called. And that means that anything that gets done, in this case, both inside and outside, it must go through a lot of auditing, and nothing can be done that can't be undone. And that's the way of preserving as much as we have of the original look and feel, both inside and outside. So we have used for the last 6.5 years the photo, the 1888 photo that you have here, which is actually progression from its original. As you can see, there are there's a barn and another outbuilding, because this was a period, the name changed, by the way, from poorhouse to workhouse to working farm, etc. And the poor who rented these miserable little bedrooms had to put in an effort to earn money to offset their ability to stay there. So eggs, wool, some of the obvious things that you'd think of in the 1800s for a small, I call it a farmette. So having said all that, and having shared, whoever gets the green copies from the Woods Hole edition, please feel free to keep it somewhere safe. And this is a book, I'm just showing you the cover of it to show you that there is substance to the point about poorhouses. These were not something that, like, Falmouth didn't wake up one day and say, gee, we've got to house the poor. Every town had a poorhouse. The Falmouth poorhouse is the last one. I keep calling it that because that's, its origin and what we're working on. The Falmouth one was not just a whim. It was a requirement, as I said, for every town. It is, however, the last poorhouse in the state of Massachusetts that is municipally owned. Okay, now the plus on that is terrific in the sense that we, for example, after working for almost 3 years, were able to get the interior renovated so that now the Health and Human Services Department is there. So that's a big plus, I think, for the town. The downside is from a funding side. Because it is municipally owned, we are not eligible to go after foundation monies, state or federal. And we are restricted to the CPC monies and Mass Historical Commission monies. And the reason we haven't done Mass Historical Commissions is, I'll tell later, it's too annoying and boring. So that we have a restriction in terms of what we can do to help get the excuse me, it's not moving there. Huh. Why isn't it going forward? It should. That's what I asked earlier. Just, do where now?
No, just the wheel. There you go.
Okay, I see. Okay, so moving along from roughly 1818 to right into the 1900s, at which point the arrival of hospital care displaced the function of the poorhouse. And the poorhouse, Edward Marks Building, which, for those of you who are not aware, is almost right outside here. It's right next to the driveway coming in. Looks like a big old federal house. Excuse me. The town wanted to honor one of its select board who was very, very popular. That's Edward Marks Jr., and that happened in 2004. So it has a kind of double nomenclature, and I'll try and show you how we're hoping to balance that. Okay, back to this. All right, Jed, you lied. Okay, here we go. Excuse me. All right. A number of things have held us up. I don't have to talk to you about COVID and what that did to a number of projects, not just ours. But everything has been very slow up until now. But we are feeling this is the year of traction for us to make a big forward step on the exterior. We're supported tremendously. We're a select board committee. That's who originally put us into business. Doug Brown, mercifully still on the select board, is our liaison. And Jed Cornock, whom you know, who's back there with a hand up modestly, gives us tremendous support and assistance from the planning perspective and working with the architectural firm, which this year will be assuming project management responsibility for the bidding document, the bidding process, and then managing the contractor. So that's a huge bit of difference that's going to happen this year. One of the reasons we haven't appeared before, it doesn't like, why is it like spinning? It's weird. Okay, so this past year was pretty uneventful, and we in part requested deferring our report because we wanted to be at a really tangible milestone where you could understand that you were actually going to start to see changes now. So DHK is the architectural firm. They're in Boston. They are the people who will now have project management responsibilities. You all have drawings of what's going on. This is the loosest mouse. Okay. Can I put aside for the moment the one thing that's in red, which is strictly, I hope you view it as something that you just have to act on, pro or con, but let's just put that aside so I can just finish up the narrative here. So we're now trying this year, since the document is going out to bid, and that represents approximately, well, 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of the anticipated changes that we can make to the building. Keep in mind, please, that this is not an exercise in aesthetics. We're trying to leave a building which has an appreciable historical provenance. It may not be glamorous, but that doesn't detract from its importance in social history. We're trying to leave a building in really good shape so that the town is not looking at spot repairs all the time. I can remember shortly after the committee was formed that the previous town manager found leaks happening in the attic, and a roof was put on in haste. And the next thing you know, guess what? It was leaking again. So we're trying to get out of that patchwork quilt of doing things and be able to say, here's the building, everything that we're talking about here, everything in that list means that we're contributing to the stability and endurance of the building to have a use going forward. If you look at the first drawing here, why does it not like to do that? There we go. What we have called out here are areas where you can expect to see really tangible change. And it's not getting more glamorous. We're not putting in Corinthian columns the way you can expect in DC. This is going to be as close as possible to the appearance of the building as shown in that photo. If you have any questions at any point, please go ahead. We are lucky, by the way, I'd like to stress the incredible effort that's gone in by the committee. We're only 6 people, 3 well-known general contractors who have worked on historical buildings. Mike Duffany, who's here tonight, Christian Valley, and Tom Renshaw, who has done, I'll try and point it out, free work on this building over umpteen years. And thank God, because I can report firsthand that I know what it's like when rabbits get into the building and die there. Anyway, so any questions on the south elevation? Sorry?
Just to let you know, you have about 3 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All I need. I'm just showing you, again, the next one. And this, for example, that window had disappeared, by which I mean at some point, for whatever reason, it was removed, and Tom completely fixed the panes of glass and everything. They were all sitting around in the attic, and he made that window happen. So that's, again, a little touch of authenticity. Okay. Come on. That's interesting. The ball on this cursor is not happy. There we go. All right, this is the back. The back right now is an unattractive beast, but it's going to be the main entrance to the building. So our goal is to draw attention to the Edward Marks identity. We're thinking right here, it's right over, this is the entrance, and then there is a ADA compliant, approach on there. And there's a place for us to put Edward Marks Jr. building, and inside, we're planning in the fourth, this is in the last stage, to have a presentation on him there and also on the history of the building. So we're trying to jockey those two things. I think, okay. Again here, oh, now that's the HVAC system sitting behind some fencing that we asked for because otherwise, especially from the street, I mean, you can see all of the rather ugly HVAC stuff. I don't mean to impugn those people. This is another window that had gotten lost and it was put back in, repaired. And I don't think there's anything exciting about the next one. Okay, and last but not least, I just want to leave you with the notion that the final phase, which we will be working on, trying to capture all the specifications, get all the specking done, we hope, this spring in order to apply for CPC monies, the deadline of which is August of this year. Otherwise, we're losing quite a gap of time and money. Having said all that, my last request is, can you please go ahead and extend the committee's, I called it raison d'etre here, because we ran out of it. We are illegal right now, so we would like to be blessed by the select board to complete our work.
We'll have to do that at a future agenda,
Fine.
future meeting, but we'll definitely attend to it.
Thank you very much. You bet. So that's it, unless you have any questions.
I just have one question. Has there ever been any thought or discussion about transferring title from the town to a 501c3 or an organization that would be eligible for state funds?
Yeah, way back
grants?
7 years ago, I tried to make that appeal and had an interested 501c3 organization, but the town at that time, I'm not casting aspersions or anything, but had no interest because the interest was in using getting the human department, the Human Health and Services Department, into that building because it's no rent organization. Whereas where the department had been back in Town Square, they were paying rent. So that was the driver on what I think why it never happened.
Well, maybe we'll have that discussion in the future as well.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Heather?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One, has there been ever any discussion of putting a fence back? It's just a very...
Yes.
Okay.
So, didn't it? Oh.
Very notable...
Does it not say the fence here?
Oh, sorry, did I miss that on the...
Well, I apologize, but this is intended to represent the fence, okay? Because
Excellent.
yes, that sort of sets it apart, gives it stature, so to speak, yes.
My second question, you mentioned balancing kind of the history of the use of the building with the name, which doesn't much relate to that use, and I love actually the continuity of use, right? That's where Health and Human Services is now. So serving
yes, there is continuity. It's
many
quite ironic.
parallel needs, essentially. And I'm curious if the committee has talked about how to really bring that history. We've got fabulous books and such if you find them at the Historical Society, but if folks are walking down the street and walking past this building, a way to know what the history of that building actually is.
So on the front, this represents one of those external, the way they're produced. They persevere year after year. So we're planning a big historical display that provides the outline, at least, of what this building was.
And then with the fence, people can get in there to see it?
Well, see, this is not an entrance and exit. It's strictly an emergency. So the fence is going to go across there. We'll have a gravel path would be historically accurate. So we want the front to be very appealing to people walking by, and to your point, getting the story, and that's where the story is. I also have some ideas for the fourth thing that don't require money. I mean, they require a little bit of a grunt effort to turn out some literature, et cetera, and hopefully to have something inside the building.
Anyone else?
Doug, are you?
I don't have any questions. I was just going to say that when I was a kid, I used to have my friends over and we'd eat all the food, and my mom would come home and say, "Well, you stop doing that, you're going to put us in the poorhouse."
Very good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Your committee has been doing a lot of diligent work, and we appreciate it. Sorry that we didn't have this discussion a little sooner, but thank you. Glad we were able to do that. Okay.
Thanks very much.
All right. Our next item is a presentation, the Cape We Shape Land Protection Initiative from the Association to Protect Cape Cod, and we have Mr. Andrew Gottlieb here to give us 15 minutes of a presentation on this initiative.
Great. Okay. I can't do this stuff by myself here. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to address the board. My name's Andrew Gottlieb. I'm the Executive Director of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. Here to describe our latest project campaign, the Cape We Shape. And from our organizational perspective, we see a number of problems that the existing development patterns of Cape Cod have resulted in. U14 estuaries, I don't have to tell the town of Falmouth about the impact of development patterns and the choice of septic systems, what that has had on our estuaries. 90% of Cape Cod's estuaries, every south-facing estuary on Cape Cod facing Nantucket Sound, all but one facing Buzzards Bay, and an increasing number of north-facing estuaries, all fail to meet state and federal water quality standards. More than a third of the ponds that we monitor exhibit poor water quality at any given point during a summer, and more than half are sort of on the margin, again, driven by nutrients and land development and wastewater management choices. Environment and economy intertwined on Cape Cod. So economically, our current development pattern has created a lot of challenges, manifesting itself in the high cost of living, high housing costs, and as a result, labor shortages, which put a lot of pressure on the employment market and cut down the productivity of the region. We've tended to fragment our natural landscape with single-family subdivision that has, in an effort to reduce impacts, resulted in many areas in large lots, which have spread out development over large areas, resulted in fragmented habitat. That's bad for water quality. It makes it more difficult for the 132 rare, endangered, and threatened species that call Cape Cod home to do as well as they ought to, especially in an era where they're experiencing a lot of additional stress associated with rapid climate change. And then we've increased our own vulnerability to storms, sea level rise, intensity of development, and in particular, put ourselves at risk for having built environment in ever-expanding flood zones. So to understand what's happened to the Cape and why we are working on this issue, I want to run you through a handful of maps. This map shows Cape Cod early stages 1900 to 1929, largely green, undeveloped. 1930 to 1959, you start to begin to see, especially in the era right after World War II, there was economic boom, cars, people had disposable income, they had the ability to move. They started to recognize Cape Cod as an attractive place to be, and you begin to see in the distance from the back, the coastal areas starting to infill and get developed. Things really changed in the 60s to 1990, and you see infill happening in a lot of different places, starts to move in away from the coast, and you'll see on the right-hand side, more development happened in that 30-year window than had preceded it in totality since colonialization of Cape Cod. So things really changed in that era. 1990 to current, further infill. And you see that, the coastal areas around ponds largely built out. And so you're seeing those pockets of additional development. The rate of development has slowed because it reflects the fact that, a lot more so-called more attractive land for development purposes had already been consumed. But still, relative to historical levels, we're still seeing significant change. In total, 86% of Cape Cod is either developed or protected, okay? What that means is we have 14% left whose fate is undetermined.
Andy,
yes.
could you explain protected?
Protected means subject to durable development restrictions. It's either publicly owned, associated with Article 97, and or owned by land trusts or other landowners who have put a conservation restriction on it. It does not, by definition, include, although some portion of it is, all municipal lands. Not all municipal lands, as you experienced in Falmouth recently with the properties around Long Pond, just because it's municipally owned doesn't mean it has conservation protection.
Okay, thank you.
So there is some public land in that 14%. It's not all privately held. So 80% of that 14% is in what we have and the Cape Cod Commission has defined as priority natural resource lands. So what are those? It's not everything, but it is the areas that support our drinking water, our Zone 2 wellhead areas. Falmouth is unusual for a lot of respects. You're the only ones that have water supply from a surface water source on Cape Cod. Everybody else gets it from wells. You get a substantial portion from wells too, but largely this is driven by groundwater protection and then areas of potential public water supply to meet future needs. It's also incorporated. From a habitat perspective, there are a number of layers that the Commonwealth keeps that are around specific habitat areas, rare and endangered species, other sensitive habitats. Included in this, the water bodies themselves. Obviously, the wet areas are an attractive draw to Cape Cod, but also of incredible importance to them, the wetlands adjacent to and near them, 100-foot buffers, and also the areas around vernal pools. And then lastly, in this categorization, are coastal and inland flood-prone areas. For those not conversant in federal emergency management speak, A zones are the areas where water accumulates, and if you stay during a sufficient enough storm, you will just simply drown. V zones are the area where you get speed and velocity, where the water will take you away, and then you will drown. Neither place do you want to be, and neither place do you want to encourage growth and development. So, this is an all-Cape opportunity and an all-Cape risk. The areas in orange on the screen are the areas that fall within that 14% critical landscape area. These are all the parcels. A lot of them small, some of them decent size, that are up for grabs. And so whether you live in Falmouth, whether you live in Mashpee, whether you live in Truro, there are lands near you, near someplace that you care about, that are vulnerable and may be best protected, but unless somebody does something to do it, there's no guarantee that they will be. So this affects everybody, everywhere, who cares about Cape Cod. The other thing I want to just quickly point out is when we say there's 40% of the Cape's protected, that 40% is not evenly distributed across all communities. If you look at on the upper left-hand corner of the Cape, in dark green, Upper Cape Water Supply Reserve, 15,000 acres of contiguous forest. It's got more protection than a lot of land, but it's not, as we learned in the recent machine gun range conversation, it is not completely protected against development and alteration. Second major holding on the upper right-hand side, Cape Cod National Seashore. If you take those two away, they're a big chunk of the 40%. So don't walk away thinking that every town in Cape Cod has 40% of its land mass protected open space. It's highly variable, and it depends upon the town. So, with that as a backdrop, we've launched this campaign, which is intended to draw attention to the issue of protecting what needs to be protected. So the campaign has a strategy. It's intended in its initial phase, which we're currently in, to educate and equip people. Most people don't know what's at risk here. They assume any land owned by a town, that's good, nobody's ever going to develop it. We've learned here and other places, not the case. People don't know that the open space near them, that might be the reason why they bought it in their home, is owned by somebody who's allowed to do something with it by zoning. So we need to educate people what's at risk, how the process works, and begin to give them the tools to become advocates at the local level to address what needs to be protected. We're looking to build a coalition of people who will bring this issue up in the public arena and in the public debate space so that the needs of open space, as they support your water quality, they support the habitat, they support your ability to adapt to storm changes and climate change, and to provide the quality of life that a lot of people came to Cape Cod, engage those people to become effective champions for this issue. We also believe that there's a base that can be widened. A lot of people, when you talk to them about, if you say open space protection, maybe they don't know what you mean. Talk to them about drinking water protection, talk to them about improving water quality, talk to them about increasing recreational opportunities. Then they go, oh, I support those things. We're trying to bring people into this construct so that they can then mobilize to work on this issue on a local basis. Work with the boards of each town, work on financing, work with their local land trusts, with the whole goal being to increase the level of conversation about this. So where are we right now? We're in phase one, we're raising people's awareness. We've got our campaign going. You might have seen some of our Team SOS signs. We're gonna move people starting later this spring throughout the course of the ongoing year, and frankly, as long as we're doing this, because education is an ongoing need, to train people and let them understand how you work, how to interact with town government, how finances work, how to engage effectively in the political arena to be productive advocates for outcomes that support a better environment. And then the last part is to make this part of what we are and all of you are doing as a long-term course of business. So how does it work? We've got our Cape Cod, the CapeWeShape.org website, and that's going to be our resource page, and people can see it. This is a long-term commitment for us. We're an almost 60-year-old advocacy organization. We pride ourselves in being rooted in science, both political and natural science, and stick with issues for the long haul. Increasing land protection is a now issue for us, and it's going to be an issue for us for the long haul. This is really intended to create the beginnings of a long-term political movement that brings conservation to the forefront of the public discourse. More information can be had at the CapeWeShape.org. We have Facebook and Instagram pages, and we'll be, working with you and your broader community. If people are interested in it, they can sign up at the Team SOS at apcc.org, and we'll start to interact with folks. So we're introducing this initiative to towns across the region as a beginning discussion. We want to support local initiatives developed by local people that reflect the needs and considerations that are unique to each one of our 15 towns. And so our role as an organization is to provide educational support, tactical support, basic campaign support. But we're not in this to tell anybody what to do. We're in this to connect with the people who want to do more on the environmental side in each one of our 15 towns and support them in the best way that we can to get an outcome that works real well for folks. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, and thanks for all APCC does on the Cape. A question, though, do you anticipate there being discussions also with developers that will, work with you to protect, natural resources, but at the same time help with the housing crisis that we have here on the Cape?
Yeah, so, we're not insensitive or unaware of the challenge around housing. We're employers. I have staff that can't live on the Cape. It's the same old story, right? So we get that. Several years ago, we did a joint project with the Housing Assistance Corporation called Grow Smart Cape Cod. And in that, we identified areas that, based on the resources that comprise them, that are best suited for protection. And this work sort of built on that. And we expanded and understand that more. The flip side of that study was to identify the areas on the Cape that, when supported by wastewater infrastructure, current or planned by a municipality, there were 3 areas that we focused on jointly with HAC that to designate those areas as most appropriate for intensive development. Town centers, previously disturbed areas, and underdeveloped areas. And the premise that we're putting forward with this, Mr. Chair, is that as an environmental organization, we can speak loudly and definitively about the need to protect certain resources because they need to be protected. And that is a separate and distinct conversation from where housing ought to go. The need to protect critical landscapes doesn't change whether you have housing pressure or you don't have housing pressure. You want to protect the areas that protect your water supply. You want to protect the areas that provide habitat. You want to protect the areas that provide storm resilience, and you want to protect the areas that protect your water quality. There are other areas in which housing is most and more appropriate, and it doesn't become, in our mind, an either or. We'll talk to anybody about anything related to this, but the objective here is to educate and raise the awareness around public need for additional open space to a level comparable to that which has already been achieved about the housing debate, so that we can have a fair discussion on a level playing field about where you ought to protect and where you ought to build.
Well, that's what we need. We have a great example here in Falmouth with the collaboration between the 300 Committee and Habitat for Humanity and the development of the property in North Falmouth. So where they're collaborating and preserving open land and at the same time building housing. So
again, if that can from our perspective, that can happen in the areas that development is appropriate and served by wastewater infrastructure, so you can do it without sacrificing water quality, that's great. There are some areas where it just should be protected because it just should be protected. And those areas we want to have enough, and you've got it in Falmouth in many respects, we want to have enough of a base that understands this issue well enough in each one of the 15 towns, so that when the equivalent of the conversation that you just experienced around Long Pond happens, there are enough people to stand up on the political front and say, no, not here. We should maybe be doing it over there, but it shouldn't happen here. And you shouldn't have to make that sacrifice for that critical land that once it's gone, you can't replace it.
Okay. Mr. Chair. Anyone else? Mr. Richardson?
First, I just want to thank you for your partnership with the Coonamessett River Trust and your appeal to Mass DEP. We can't get into details because it was an executive session, but this board has expressed serious frustrations with the way 40B is working, where you've managed to piss off NIMBYs, environmentalists, and housing people in one group are all pissed off together about this law. So my question for you is part of this movement, driving policy changes on Beacon Hill, because we as a board have also expressed frustration with this particular law and really handicapping us in our ability to do address affordable housing, but also have, like you said, and where places it doesn't make sense, the ability to literally say no to these mega projects across town.
So this is not frontally directed at 40B. Once a property gets identified and a 40B process starts, it's pretty hard to derail it. The purpose of this project is to identify the lands within your community that might or might not be subject to 40B that are better left protected and off the development scale, and to identify them and come up with a plan and a financing approach to be able to acquire them so that you never get in the position of having to respond to a 40B. Because if it's worth protecting and you care enough about it, protect it before somebody tags it as a 40B, because once they do, you're gonna lose. Right? So we're not using this to, ooh, use this, and there are people who are seeing what we're doing with this and saying, oh, here's another soldier in my fight against the 40B, in my neighborhood. Our involvement in the Saxon appeal is not about 40B. Our involvement in the Saxon appeal is about water quality standards and appropriate permitting. And I don't care whether it's a 40B or not a 40B. It just happens to be one. But that's not the issue for us. But we have people in other towns who are concerned about them and saying, ooh, we're going to use this, we're going to hijack this campaign in order to fight the 40B. That's not what we're in this for. We're in this for identifying and protecting what needs to be protected because it needs to be protected, not getting into a fight over 40Bs because you can throw a lot of time, energy, and money at it, and everybody loses.
Anyone else? Mr. Brown?
Mr. Gottlieb, I'm wondering if you, I didn't see farming property listed up there, and we have a lot of folks in Falmouth Agricultural Commission, Farming Falmouth, very concerned about the fact that it's always farmland that gets targeted for development, and there's not much left. And I wonder if there's any room in your program to add farmland to the open space idea. It wouldn't be exactly open space. But
Yeah, we really, Doug, and we've had this discussion numerous times with a bunch of different people in different contexts. We picked the areas we picked because we were really focused on undisturbed natural spaces that serve those functions that we talked about. It's not to say that farmland and preservation farmland isn't an important thing. It didn't fit within the four walls of the way we've chosen to define, and the commission's chosen to define these priority natural landscape types. And so we're happy to work with the farming community to share the information, to share the techniques and the guidance that we're providing on how towns work, how to motivate and work with your community are as applicable to farmland preservation as they are to open space. So we're happy to open that conversation up, but it's not part of the specifics of this particular campaign.
Okay. I have one more after Heather.
Okay, two quick questions. I think it's safe to say you're speaking to a board that's eager to work with our residents, our local nonprofits, and do the work ourselves to protect land in Falmouth. We have a 30% by 2030 goal, and we'll be getting an update on where we are on that with the recent vote on lands around Long Pond. My questions are, do you know off the top of your head roughly what that breakdown of public versus privately held land in your priority category is?
Yes.
And the map that's on your website, can you actually click all of those red priority things and get to a parcel and figure out what it is?
Not yet. Okay. So we're setting up these individual teams by town. As we begin to work with them, we will be able to sit down with them and the local land trusts and zoom in on Falmouth. And we're gonna break these down into that Cape-wide map into 15 town maps that will be somewhat static, but we do have already in the system who owns it, public or private, size, and it's all on a, interactive GIS level scale. So as we roll this out, we'll be able to engage in those conversations with folks about that. We're not quite ready to push that functionality out on the website yet, but we have it.
Mr. Brown, you had another question?
Yeah, how do you plan to fund all this? Is that still in the works?
We've made an organizational commitment to finance the staff and the support of the teams from our own internal resources. So we have a funding plan. Doesn't mean I'm not out there looking for money and wouldn't happily accept it to dedicate towards this project, but we've developed the means within our annual giving cycle and our budget process to be able to prosecute this campaign. We're in the process now of hiring a campaign manager. Our advocacy director, new advocacy director, Christy Johnson, hiding in the back. And she's overseeing the day-to-day input, but we're getting support by this new person that we anticipate having on by May.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No more questions? We'll let you go. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your time, and also thank the board and the town for working with APCC and other partners on the Red Brook Road project, the various Quashnet and Coonamessett River projects that we're working on together, doing a lot of work together, and we appreciate the partnership of the town.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Likewise.
Okay, our next matter is consider a vote to approve an application for renewal of a seasonal all-alcoholic beverages club license, common victualler license, entertainment license, and Sunday entertainment license for Seacoast Shores Association, INC 7 Fairview Lane. While Mr. Johnson-Staub is setting up the podium, I'm going to ask Town Council Maura O'Keefe to give us a little bit of an introduction with respect to this matter and the action or inaction that was taken at our last board meeting.
Thank you, Chair Muscali. Maura O'Keefe, Town Council. You have some information here in the agenda item summary, and I just want to give you a little bit additional background and frame the legal concepts that are before you tonight. So we are here this evening, as you'll recall, because at the public meeting of the Select Board on March 23rd, there was an item before you for a renewal of an application to sell alcohol to the applicant, Seacoast Shores Association. Usually renewals are rote. They're simply done as a matter of course as long as the application is complete. However, at the March 23rd meeting, there were people who appeared at the public hearing in opposition to the renewal. The renewals are not hearings, so no notice was sent to the applicant to appear before the board. It simply isn't the way that that's done. The opposition was allowed to have a couple of minutes to speak as a matter of courtesy. However, because the applicant wasn't here, there was a matter of due process, really, where the applicant wasn't allowed to counter the opposition. They weren't even notified that that there would be an opportunity to speak, and simply because of the constraint, the procedural constraints in Chapter 138, the board had limited options in the face of opposition, and instead of the board couldn't continue the matter because it required assent of the applicant, who of course was not there. And so we were looking at taking no action, in which case the application would have been deemed denied, or simply denying the application and allowing the applicant to be able to at least take hold of their appellate rights. And the appellate rights are very short when you're talking about licenses. The appellant had 5 days from the date of notification of denial to file with the ABCC. Once the decision to deny the license was done, I had communications with Attorney McCarthy, and I understood immediately that the appeal was filed with the ABCC, and I reached out to General Counsel of the ABCC to see procedurally where we were, because this is unusual. Right now, the ABCC has retained jurisdiction, but they want this to be resolved at the local level. They want for this board to make a decision tonight on the application. There is a hearing still scheduled for May 4th in case the board cannot make a decision or decides to deny the renewal. But the hope is that this will be resolved here without the need to proceed to the ABCC. So that's convoluted procedural history. That's highly unusual, but here we are. So before you, I did include some criteria in the agenda summary for you to consider in the face of this application. And what is before you and what you are required to determine is really limited. It's limited to whether or not you're going to grant or deny this license. And the considerations for any local licensing authority when reviewing an application for a license to sell alcohol are that you are to consider the public need and the public want, the appropriateness of the location, the character and suitability of the applicant, and the number of existing licenses. And I just want to go into a little bit more detail for those 4 criteria so that you have an understanding of what we're talking about specifically for alcohol licenses. So as far as talking about the public need and the public want, what you are to ask yourself and ask each other is there a genuine demand for the establishment to serve alcohol in this proposed location? That is the question you are to ask yourselves. When you're talking about the appropriateness of the location, you're looking at whether there's proximity to schools or churches, and proximity to residential neighborhoods. Also, whether there will be an impact on traffic congestion or whether there will be a negative impact for for noise concerns. When you're talking about character and suitability of the applicant, what you are to ask yourselves is the applicant qualified? Are they capable of holding a license? And that means, are they 21 years of age? Are they a citizen? Is the person holding the license statutorily qualified to do so? Are they a felon? Those are the things you're looking at. And that should have been weeded out before it even hit the desk. So, and then the last part is, what is the desired density of alcohol licenses in the area? If there are too many alcohol licenses in one particular place, you can deny a license based on that simple fact. And those are the criteria that you're to consider. Lastly, you are able to hear support and opposition for the license, and that may factor into your decision-making. Anything outside of the criteria that I have just enumerated and explained is not before you.
And could you just tell us where that criteria comes from, Counsel?
Yes, this is developed not only from the language of the statute itself, Chapter 138, Section 12, but also it's teased out of decisions before the ABCC and in some case law.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just so I understand, the application includes other aspects in addition to the all-alcoholic. With respect to this particular application. It's a Sunday entertainment license, an entertainment license, a common victualler license, and a club license. Can we parse them out? Are we allowed to parse them out going forward this evening?
So the seasonal license is the club license, and that's an important thing for you to note here, because club licenses under Section 12, there are a particular subsection of a restaurant, Section 12 pouring license. For club licenses, they are given to private organizations, nonprofit, not-for-profit or nonprofit organizations organized under Chapter 180, or to fraternal organizations. And what they do is they allow the license holder to limit access to the licensed premises to members only.
But I guess my question is, going forward, and we'll see where the board is with respect to the club license, but would we be also taking action with respect to these other 3 licenses that are part and parcel of this application? The common victualler, the Sunday entertainment, and the entertainment license? They're
as a package, so Section 12 licenses are required to also hold a common victualler license, so those go together. You could grant the entertainment license without the alcohol, but I mean, a band and some music, they go pretty well together.
No, I just want to make sure we understand how what the proper procedure is. Okay, thank you.
If I could.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I'm curious about other parameters of other information that was in the packet, unrelated to the few that you mentioned. Like, for instance, I have some questions about the contradictory language in the bylaws compared to some of the other proceedings that followed, and I'm wondering how that comes into play.
So those are not before you. That is not something that this board is qualified nor has the jurisdiction to review or to opine upon. What is before you is simply the license to sell alcohol, the common victualler, the package of licenses. Anything that any information that you've received about information contained in any of the deeds to any of the properties in Seacoast Shores, anything about private litigation, that is not for your determination. And I think the best way to look at that is to think about that there are two things going on here. This board can determine whether or not to grant or deny the license. And these private matters that are also going on, bubbling under the surface here, that is for a court of competent jurisdiction to determine about whether the license can be used. So this board gets to grant or deny the license, and a court will determine whether that license can be operated.
Okay, but it seems, I'm just trying to clarify, because it seems like if things may or may not be in order, but if they're found not to be in order, do we have the right to do the license?
Let's hold these questions, and listen to the applicant. I mean, it's certainly a good question, Doug. I'm not trying to stop you. I just think we should hear from the applicant. As I said at the beginning, we're going to hear from the applicant, and then if the select board has any questions of the applicant, we can ask her, and then we'll let the friends have 5 minutes, and then we can ask questions of them. And then we can discuss it amongst ourselves, and certainly at that point, ask council any questions that we want to help us reach a decision. So,
we have this in the right order then? This is not the applicant's presentation, is it?
What? Yeah, this is the applicant. No, this is not their presentation. Do you have a presentation, attorney?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to read from it.
Yeah, okay.
I need it.
Yeah.
It's only my notes.
So you don't have
No,
slides?
You don't have
slides.
You don't have a slide?
No
Okay,
slides.
I didn't think you did.
Oh, it doesn't matter. They're fine.
I didn't think you did. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
My name is Andrea McCarthy. Before we start, can I just have the people who, as you said, there were a lot of people here in support, can they just stand up and raise their hand so you know who's here for the renewal of the liquor license?
For them to agree to the license.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
Just to give you a little background, I'm a full-time resident of Falmouth, and I own property in Seacoast Shores. I was also involved as a member and as the attorney for the initial liquor license with 2012, as well as the building of the new clubhouse. But in 2012, the initial application for the liquor license, all of the documents that were required at that time were sent in, and that was reviewed by both the town of Falmouth as the local licensing authority, as well as the ABCC. As a result of getting everything, they approved the license. We have had this license for 14 years. It's come up for renewal every year. There's never been an issue with the police, with the fire, with noise complaints, nothing. They have had this automatically renewed every single year for 14 years. Nothing has changed since 2012 when the license was first issued to Seacoast Shores. The objectives, in our opinion, have no basis to challenge the original decision of the ABCC, which they were attempting to do. Under Chapter 138, Section 23, which governs the issuance and denial of liquor licenses, it's clear that they, as opponents, have no authority under the statute to seek a declaration that Seacoast should be prohibited from selling alcoholic beverages. Additionally, under 138, Section 16A, which governs the renewals of liquor licenses in Massachusetts, seasonal liquor licenses, it sets forth that generally they're renewed automatically by just the submission of a renewal application to the town. This is all that should have been required to justify the renewal. In Massachusetts, a town can't legally deny the renewal of a seasonal liquor license for no reason, and as long as the application is filed timely, the license is seeking the same type of license for the same premises, and the fee is paid, the license should be automatically renewed. In Seacoast's case, there have been no issues, as I stated, for the past 14 years. The remaining arguments that were made on March 23rd by the objectors should not be considered because they're clearly outside the scope of the renewal of a seasonal liquor license. They're not applicable, they're completely irrelevant and without merit. Notwithstanding, I'd like to clarify a few items included in their submissions. They claim they're abutters, whereas not one person on the list of the 27 households that signed that form are abutters within the 300 feet. The closest one is approximately 0.6 miles from there, which is 3,100 feet. Their list of 27 households out of approximately 900 households in Seacoast, with approximately 400 of those being members of the association. And you've seen many letters have been sent in support of the liquor license renewal. It's very unfortunate that a very small handful of people are causing such discourse in the community. But again, this is a community issue. It's not an issue that the select board should be dealing with. 8 of these people have filed suit in Barnstable Superior Court, which included an attempt at that point to get rid of the liquor license. The count was dismissed by the court, and they submitted the exact same documents that they've submitted to the board. Having failed to nullify the liquor license in the Superior Court, the same people have submitted the same argument to the select board. They're attempting to use the select board to circumvent the court's ruling, which is completely inappropriate. This isn't the first time that they've been before a board, this small group of people in Falmouth. This is the 4th that I can count where they've attempted to misuse the town's resources and their time in an effort to try and cause trouble for the members of the Seacoast Shores Association community. In 2011, Seacoast gathered commitments from its members to pay for the building of the new clubhouse. This plan was financially supported by at least 5 people who were on that list to oppose the liquor license. They no longer are active in the community with the association. They were the financial supporters that helped build the initial clubhouse when the initial liquor license was obtained. And this includes Mr. O'Regan, who spoke on March 23rd, as well as his wife, Cicely, who the documents were written by. And they were among the earliest financial supporters. Our position is that any failure to grant the license renewals would be financially devastating to the association. The restaurant, which includes the bar, is the financial engine which helped the transformation of the area from one of the highest crime neighborhoods to one of the lowest in Falmouth. They host many events such as Kids Weekly Bingo, weddings, funerals, bridal and baby showers, birthday parties, and have several already scheduled for this summer. They've provided over 50 jobs last season alone, many of those for people who live in the community. This year, Seacoast will celebrate its 75th anniversary. So clearly what was submitted by FOSS, which was also dismissed by the Superior Court, that entity and all of their anything that they filed with respect to the association. It's a personal grievance, as you can see by one of the members holding up a picture of a Halloween costume.
Okay,
there was
you're gonna have
not
to-
any dispute regarding the safety or operation of the clubhouse liquor license. The neighborhood dispute has no place before this board.
Please wrap it up, attorney, please. We gave you 5 minutes.
Can I, one
Yeah,
second?
just finish up,
I
please.
agree with town council's advice given to the select board on March 23rd, and having no issues with the operation of the license, all papers having been properly submitted in a timely fashion, we would request that the board vote in favor of the renewal of Seacoast licenses, including all of them, as well as the seasonal all club license. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Mr. Richardson.
So, the cases like this is why we brought I believe the previous board, which I was not on, went forward with a separate licensing board. We should not be policing neighborhood matters. I think we should just approve the license. This is not our debate to handle neighborhood matters.
Okay, we are going to hear from the Friends, though, so just want you to know
Sure,
that.
I understand that, but
Okay.
I think that everything they've been doing is in order, and that's not our job to, I understand there are valid grievances that the Friends have, but that's not this board's priority to police them.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions?
Just to clarify, so there's no more legal pending?
Oh, the Superior Court case is still pending.
Oh, excuse me.
But it's against the 8 individuals. Foss was dismissed, and the liquor license count was dismissed at the early stage, the motion to dismiss stage.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Stand by, counsel, but, okay, we'll now hear from the Friends, Mr. O'Regan. And he does have a PowerPoint or a presentation for us.
Just got to make sure I can operate the PowerPoint here. You can hear me okay? Thank you, Chairman Scully and members of the Select Board. Yeah, we do have a lot of information that we submitted. It's a binder full. It's a lot. We'd like to thank you for your time to hear from the Friends of Seacoast Shores. And basically, what we are is, our mission is that we're dedicated to advocating for inclusivity, fairness in our community. We believe that every voice matters. It's not a popularity contest, folks.
Speak up. Can you speak up, please? We can't hear you.
I can't get over that quickly to the microphone. Okay, can you hear me okay in the back there? Okay, good. So this is not a popularity contest. This is something speaking to the rule of law. And how we started is that in 2015, Ed Moritz, around his kitchen table, is that SSI implemented a beach police program, denying neighborhood kids access to the beach without proof of membership. The Select Board did intervene in that matter and opened the beach up to all the residents in Seacoast Shores. But let's talk about what Seacoast Shores is. And this is, I think, goes into what basically is what type of a neighborhood it is. It's an environmental justice zone. And we speak for the people in this community that have two characteristics. There's a minority population of 12%, and the median household income is under $50,000. And what that means is that in this neighborhood, when we have affordable housing crisis, is that half of those people make less than $50,000 a year. So what happens? Yes, the land does matter. So the standard, I think the town council pointed out, is it must serve a public need and be in the public good. Yes, if the formalities are met, and yes, you can renew a license. But however, Section 16A does not strip the Falmouth Select Board, and that's you, of its oversight role. It addresses timing and form of renewal, not the merits when cause exists. We believe that exists. And addressing the Barnstable Superior Court matter, yes, it's an active case. And yes, that count on the liquor license was dismissed. However, is that decision, referenced by SSAI, does not deprive the board of its independent statutory discretion under Section 23 to reevaluate the license. And that's what we're asking the board to do. So let's talk about what Seacoast Shores is and what it's become since its inception, is that it operates a private resort in a residential zone. We're in a densely populated neighborhood on a 2-mile-long saltwater peninsula with one single access in and out of Seacoast Shores. It's a dangerous intersection and uncontrolled. But I also want to point out is that expansion plans, we have a pool, we have a clubhouse, and we have a tennis court. And what they're doing is that, and I have it here if you'd like to see it, is that what they're doing is that they've hired a manager, and this is on ZipRecruiter.com, is that what they want to do is they're asking this manager, quote, this is what it is. They're expanding their operations outside of Seacoast Shores community. And with the membership engagement, well, this is what, and this is reading from their own listing here, and I can provide a copy with it, is that what it says is that proactively, membership engagement growth, proactively engage with members and potential members, especially from the surrounding communities. That's outside Seacoast Shores. We also know is that they have 51 employees. That strongly indicates a resort is being operated in a residential neighborhood. So,
okay, please.
May I be allowed to speak, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, no, please
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Yeah, so what we're here is saying is that what was a common area and it does, we do believe that you have to read the deed in there, is that what they've done is they put up a paywall on people who have easement rights on a land that was dedicated to basically to the community, all of the community there. But the other thing is there is a lack of public need. The financial instability of the liquor-based, where they're selling liquor-based model, demonstrates a lack of demand. They lost $50,000 last year. And they show a chronic, from 2006 to 2024, from the scant records that we've been able to get at, is that it's not financially self-sustaining. And why? Because they put up an exclusionary paywall. There's no economic necessity for a liquor license, and the liquor license preference that they've chose exacerbates the equity and legal concerns rather than addressing the financial challenge. So yes, we can go in there. It's in the package here, and in the interest of time, is that there is a restriction in there. The premise is not allowed to sell license, because when they got the deed, is that to the property, it says, the charter said, it shall not include the right to apply for a license to sell alcoholic beverages. That premise is not a license. That charter has not been altered and amended. The bylaws cannot overcome that. So operating a licensed alcohol serving bar on this deed restriction parcel, we believe is ultra vires, and we'd ask you to consider that as part of your decision. And that deed restriction still runs with the land. So in the interest of time, I just want to say is that we have unrestricted deed easement rights in that land. We're excluded. There's a paywall there. And also, and lastly, when we got into getting in there, and I guess somebody wanted to take a personal shot at my wife, thank you very much, but also is that we were able to get in and dig at the alcohol records. And we found out some things that were misstated. Is that Attorney Stephen McLaughlin signed an affidavit to you, this very board, back in 2013 when they applied for a liquor license, and he stated, under the pains and penalties of perjury, that all the construction funds were raised through cash contributions from members. There is no other person or entity which has made financial contributions. Contributions is donations, folks. It's not the sale of investment shares or investment certificates. And they've marketed these things as investment shares and resellable investment shares. So, and what that does, and they promise return on investment. This is a nonprofit corporation. So after collecting all the funds from investment shares, purchasers and SSAI, in 2012, they required people to record investment certificates. So people have easement rights. Yeah, you may say it's a neighbors would squabble, but it goes to the legality of the operation there. And it goes that these construction funds were not contributions, but sold through the sale of investment shares, promising an increase in return. But I want to wrap up here, is that, this is what they think of us. This is what they think of Friends of Seacoast Shores, a 501c3 nonprofit. What they think of us is that they have a practice of denigrating the very neighbors that they deny access to. At their Halloween party last October, the award-winning costume was a clown wearing a T-shirt that says FOSS, Friends of Seacoast Simpletons. And a clown wearing a sign that says, Stop SSAI, stop making our community awesome. Mr. Kelleher, when he spoke to you a few weeks ago, he spoke about the 75%, the people that don't have a voice. And what they're going to do is, if they're allowed to continue, is that they will convert, through this vehicle of the liquor license and this resort-style clubhouse, they will take away affordable housing, and they will turn it into an expensive resort development. Now, they mock, they laugh,
Please.
But this is what we can see that's happening. And this is what's happening in front of you. And I would just like to thank you for the time, Mr. Chair, and members of the Select Board, and any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr. Brown? No?
I asked my questions in advance, and unfortunately, I feel I have my answer.
I would motion to approve seasonal all alcoholic beverage club license, common Victualler license, entertainment license, and Sunday entertainment license for Seacoast Shores Association, Inc., 7 Fairview Lane as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I would simply like to say that I hear your passion for your community, and there do seem to be issues, but they are well beyond the scope of a liquor license renewal. And to Council McCarthy, I hear your frustration with the time and the process. We were confronted at our previous meeting with an allegation of a legal matter that in my mind spoke to suitability to hold a license with the additional, and the idea that that may not have come to light in previous licensing. And so I felt it was important that we do our due diligence and ensure that things were in order with the additional documentation that we've received. I feel that we've done that, and I'm happy to grant these licenses to the Seacoast Shores Association.
And I would... I would just say that if this were before us today as a new application, there would be questions I would want to address before we went forward, but given that this is not really the forum for that, and I think our purview is limited, I would agree that we should approve this license because I don't think we have any other legal option.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. I think the Friends have other alternatives that they can pursue, and maybe there is something there that needs to be addressed. But as far as council has advised us, and given what our role in this renewal application, I will also support the granting of the application. Okay. Okay. So. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are going to take a 2-minute recess to let everyone leave. Okay, we are back from recess, and we will hear on the status report on the design of the new police station at 100 Brick Kiln Road. Mr. DeMello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Surprised no one wanted to stay around and listen to this presentation, but, you know,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Mr. Johnson-Staub, do you have any introductory comments, or you just want to turn it over?
We can turn it right over to the Chairman DeMello.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So this, excuse me, this presentation is similar to the one that was given at town meeting last week. So once again, I'm Boyd DeMello, the chairman of the Police Station Advisory Committee, and these are the other chair members. Here with me tonight is Steve Kirby from Veritex, their owner's project manager, and Tecton Architects. They're not here tonight, but they're the design firm on the project. Our project schedule remains ambitious. The committee is meeting just about once a month right now while we're in schematic design and design development. The working group, the internal working group of the police department, along with with Tecton and Veritex, meets bi-weekly, currently going over stuff. And there's been scheduled times with the engineering company, the HVAC companies, and all those little subcontractors on the project starting to work through the design of the police station. So we were last before the board here in January, on the 28th of January. We had 2 community forums, one on the 2nd of February at the Herman Room at the library. It was attended, but it was sparsely attended. And then we had a community forum here at the Senior Center on the 16th of March. That was much better attendance that meeting. And we did hear from some of the abutters. The town had notified the abutters on the project, and I encouraged them to come and ask questions and hear what we're talking about. The schematic design came back, excuse me, came back on March 20th, and the design estimate is due back in this week. We're going to continue updating this board going forward. We hadn't been here in February and March, only because there was really nothing to report. We were in the schematic design phase, and there was nothing excitingly new to bring to you. We're going to plan to have several more community forums long before we start bringing this back to town meeting again. A couple things to note from the community forum meeting, and I'll get to those when I bring up the site plan. Currently on the site, the Phase 1 environmental assessment, those were conducted in mid-January. No areas of concern were noted on those. Geotechnical borings and site surveys have also been completed, and a traffic study that was underway through the Department of Public Works and Peter McConaughey and his departments was expanded to include the Oxbow Road intersection, and that expansion came out of the community forum here on March. And we're thankful for the DPW and their input on the project, along with the other town departments that continue to work closely with us on this project. Once again, here's the 100 Brick Hill Road property site. The blue shaded area depicts the area that the police station is proposed to occupy on this large parcel of land, and the light green lift station is located next to the police station. That'll be two projects that are kind of going on simultaneously. The sewer work project has started already. Oops. Okay.
It's a little slow on the bigger slides.
Would you? Oh, you wouldn't? Steve, let's see that. So when I get, here we go. Back. There we go. Thanks, Steve. I know we brought Steve for a reason. So the conceptual site design is how it sits currently. We presented a slightly different site plan to the community forum back in March. We heard from the abutters and took in some of their concerns, and Tecton has revised the site plan to this current plan that we have before us today. So one of the concerns was the neighbor across the street, the staff driveway, as we're referring to it as, which is on the eastern side of the property, was coming right out, and the headlights would go into this gentleman's house, and he jokingly said he doesn't have room to put a bush in front of his house. His house is so close to the road, and if you drive by there, he's absolutely correct. So the driveway, that staff driveway, has been relocated a little farther west on the property. It now lines up more with that new 40B development that's going in off of Brick Hill Road, so we have less of a headlight issue on the homes over there. Another abutter was concerned about the noise that an impound lot may present during, overnight hours or trucks coming and going, tow trucks. So we moved the impound lot and the outbuilding to the back of the property, away from Brick Hill Road, which allowed them to scoot the building a little closer to the road. There is going to be some tree clearing along Brick Hill Road. That front parcel there contains a lot of scrub pine and stuff that can go and provide a better landscape design for the property. What else do we have? We had a lady at the meeting that brought up the traffic study, which we implemented with Peter McConaughey to include the Oxbow Road intersection to determine the traffic there. And those are the few plans. So currently, this is the conceptual site plan for the police station as it sits right now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Kirby from Tecton for the floor plan presentation.
Steve Kirby from Vertex.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I moved to Steve.
So good evening, everybody. I'm just going to go over the current floor plans. Right now, the building is at 47,713 square feet. The lower, first floor level is a little bit larger than the second floor, only because of the sally port and the training room. But I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the entry to the building is here. We'll have a ramp. It's been configured to be a protected area. That was specially noted because of what happened at the Shrewsbury Police Department. It's not a clear run down the driveway to get to the front door, and that's obviously going to be protected by bollards also. But you come in, you've got the lobby, you've got the main desk. We got the training room and EOC area here. We head down towards the east. We've got the evidence suite, I'm calling it. It's the evidence lab, evidence storage. As you head down to the back, you've got your booking and your holding cells, and the sally port is right off of the booking area. You come back through to the center of the building, is the men's lockers and the women's lockers, associated toilet facilities with that. Coming back to the front, you've got your records area, you've got some office space, you've got your community engagement office, and then you have your IT office that will actually have some working workstations for staff. Across from that is your fitness area. And then as you come down to sort of the back of the house to a degree, you've got your mechanical, electrical rooms, your canine section, your armory, your weapons cleaning, and your SRT bay. Any questions on the first floor before I go to the second? Okay.
Oh, there's no more basement?
There's no basement. Right now, this is slab on grade, two-level building.
Okay.
So second level is a lot of your admin areas. We come up, starting at this section of the building. This is your chief's office, your deputy chief, your admin, a conference room. And as you head down the corridor, you've got your detectives area. You get your various captains and lieutenants' offices, conference room, some toilet areas. You come back down the hall. You've got, again, there's multiple lieutenants' offices along here. You got your traffic office. You have your, can't read that, unfortunately, sorry. I think that is traffic, that's, the report writing room. Across, you have your defensive tactics room. You have your simulator room. Then you have your patrol sergeant's office space, your roll call room. And then there's a little bit of a break in the building with a separate stairway. And this, on the far side, is your dispatch, your communications office suite. Any questions?
Where's the boss sit?
Boss is sitting right here.
Oh, okay.
Chief, then the admin in between, and deputy chief.
Thank you.
And then a conference room off of their area.
Sorry, can you go back to the first floor?
Yes.
I just missed what the description of the area behind the locker rooms is.
Oh, right here?
No. Sorry, you were at the right there. You're on top of it now.
This is the men's locker, this is the women's locker side. And then you have fitness next to that.
Okay. Thank you. I was misreading. Okay.
Any other questions?
Find any ways to save on the budget?
Well, let's get into that, I think.
Well, we can talk about the rendering first.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get there.
So this is again, preliminary conceptual schematic design. This is a rendering you may have seen before that Tecton has derived. They're trying to make it look in the Cape Cod style, but we also want to be able to utilize the second floor. So what they've done, and not having it look like a tremendously tall two-story building. So they put the roof lines at this point and basically have dormers to create the office space up on the second floor. And you can see there's the bank of dormers here, and there's individual dormers as we go down the middle spine of the building. It's the outside is a combination of fiber cement, clapboard siding, or maybe shake style, asphalt shingles, and then there is a masonry knee wall that comes off of grade before it starts with the either siding or the shakes.
What is the roof material idea for those dormers? They look almost flat.
I think that may be just a little bit of a
architect.
Optical illusion. Everything's gonna pitch to drain.
Okay, just thinking that
it does look flat.
It's not going to be a rubber roof, I would hope, right? Because it's such a short lifespan for that stuff.
Excuse me, one quick thing I forgot to mention, and I apologize, Peter. One of the things that came up and we're looking at still is the modular indoor gun range that was proposed. You can see that on the site plan. We are planning to run the conduit and the pad and stuff out to that. We're still looking at the pricing and the purchasing, whether it's going to be, we can purchase it now into the project, or that's a, you know, an ask down the road later on. And lighting on the property is all dark sky compliant as required. And I think that was it. I knew I left out a couple things, but we'll let Peter get on with that.
Could I ask you one question about the site plan before Peter starts? Sure. Assume there's a call at Stop and Shop, okay? How's somebody going to respond? Where are they going to go out of the police station to get to Stop and Shop? Are they going to go through Brook Hill, down Oxbow and onto 28, or are they going to go on that side road, or that road that leads out to beyond Wood Lumber, Falmouth Lumber?
Falmouth Lumber. So I think Brick Hill Road is going to be probably the more traveled road. That road to the back, we're still working on the ins and outs or the what we're going to do with that piece of roadway. There's some question with MassDOT whether we have to get some more permitting to make that connection onto 28 or not. That's something that we're working with Peter and the engineers over at the DPW on. But I would say primarily, I mean, if you go out, you can go Brick Hill Road to Oxbow to 28, or you can go Brick Hill Road to Gifford Street down to the Stop and Shop or the Sandwich Road intersection.
All of those are pretty busy intersections. I still wish there was a way you could access or leave that property through that road that's beyond Falmouth Lumber.
No, I agree with you, and there's quite a few busy intersections in the town. Currently, where it's situated now, we go through a lot of busy intersections too, so it's just the nature of it.
Okay.
Also a question on the site plan. Actually, if you could go back to that slide. There's a dotted line. I'm assuming that's a fence of some sort?
Yes, there's a fence on indicated on the property. That's it's a security fence. It's in around the building. If you look, it starts right here and runs around the building.
Yep.
This dotted line is just outlining some of the area that the police department is taking up.
No, I guess I'm just curious why that fence needs to come so far forward, and you mentioned taking down the trees along Brick Hill, and I thought we'd talked pretty early on in the site plan about trying to maintain as much of that vegetation along Brick Hill Road, and
Right.
I know this is just an overlay on a satellite image, but it looks like there's a number of mature trees there.
One of the budding neighbors pointed out that there are a lot of, I call it scrub pine, I'm sure there's a different name for it. But there are some good mature trees in that property too, but the scrub pine, it can get cleared out there and cleaned up the site, but still leave a decent amount of tree growth in the area. We're not looking to take out any mature trees that we don't have to take out for the project. Most of this where it's sitting now was vacant, flat land with the use of the airport and the drive-in. So the mature trees, are on the outskirts of the
Right.
property.
No, I was just trying to maintain as many of those along Brick Hill
Are
Road as
you asking
possible.
about that dashed line?
Not the dash line, no, I was asking about the
Okay.
security fence.
Okay, all
It
right.
just seems to be really far toward the road, and then there was also the
Again,
mention
it's
that we need
conceptual,
to-
and some of that area may be used for snow storage removal and stuff like that, so we may not have adjusted the fence either when we moved the outbuilding back, but again, it's conceptual drawing.
Yep.
But, certainly I think we hear the intent that we want to save trees to the extent possible, and there may even be a discussion about what some people view as scrub pine to be removed and other people view as native pitch pine. Those details we will get into. I did want to speak to the cost, and I will say before I get into the tax impact assumptions and estimates, that just as recently as a week ago, we were talking about the staffing levels being based on the size of the facility being based on staffing projected over a 50-year period. And, what does it look like if we were to come down a little bit on those staffing estimates? How much space can we save? How much cost can we save? And the answer was not much, actually, because a lot of the additional space that you get at when you grow the police department is more patrol officers. so that they need a little bit more square footage for locker rooms, but they're not, the patrol officers are not all going to be in the building for a long period of time anyway, so it doesn't drive a huge amount of space. There might be a couple of offices for lieutenants and captains, but I think the vast majority of the building that we're designing is going to be used, is going to be needed right at the outset. So with that said, I wanted to lay out, these are still, as you heard, we're just in a week, we should be getting our first real cost estimates based on the schematic designs that we now have. We have retained 2 different cost estimating firms. They'll be providing independent estimates, and then we'll go through a reconciliation process to get the best possible number. Even with that, it's an early cost estimate based on schematic designs, not construction documents. So there's still a pretty significant contingency and variance between that and final cost. So we're still working on our preliminary number of a $65 million construction cost. That's in addition to the $5 million already borrowed within the levy limit and without a tax impact. So with assuming a $65 million borrowing amount, we have yet to determine whether we would borrow that over 20 years or over 30 years. That decision will be based on what are the interest rates at that time and what are we looking at for other projects to be borrowed within the near term and what's the best way to layer that debt. So, I felt it was important to provide a range of tax impact to represent those unknowns. So we looked at 20 to 30 years, an interest rate of 4 to 5%. And what those assumptions lead to is annual debt service of $4 to $6.5 million per year. And one more assumption that we need to make, depending on whether we have level debt service or declining debt service, that dollar amount, that annual debt service could be fixed over the life of the bond, or it could be a declining balance, creating additional debt drop-off and reduced tax burden over the term of that bond. So with that assumption of $4 to $6.5 million estimated annual debt cost for the life of the bond, the tax rate would range from 17 cents to 30 cents per $1,000 of property value. And what that looks like for a tax bill impact for the median home value for a single-family home of $792,000 is $135 to $225 per year for that median value home. And again, that tax impact would be temporary and would expire when the bond is fully paid off over that 20 to 30 year period. Again, these are very early estimates, but that's what we have for the estimated tax impact.
When do we get more concrete estimates, Peter?
In about a week.
You said in a week?
Yep.
Okay.
One more question.
So we'll be back to see you again.
Just to clarify, you do have a budget for furnishings included in that $65 million, correct?
Yes.
That's all in total project cost, yes.
Any idea what the rough allowance is for that?
Generally speaking, soft cost, when you saw the rule of thumb, is 20 to 25% of your construction cost.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a lot of contractors telling me that's an expensive price per square foot, but I think they're forgetting about all the elements that go in the building as well.
Other questions? Mr. Reed?
Yeah, Mr. Duffany got up at the town meeting and expressed concern about the financials. You wrote that in the memo, and the need for the potential to use the Long Pond property before the vote again in case this was voted down. Do you have any background into why or what he was meaning on that?
Personally, I'm not familiar with Mr. Duffany's comments. I wasn't at town meeting when he made them, so I couldn't speak to what he was, and I haven't had a conversation with him about it. So.
If I could just say, I don't think it was related to the cost savings. I think he was just saying that you never know when you're going to need land That's why he wanted to put off the preservation
Oh, I thought-
unrelated to the cost of the
Okay,
police station.
I must have read that wrong in the enterprise, my fault. Can you just describe also the slide from $50 million to 65? The only reason I'm asking this is that was right after we voted and made the commitment to get you the new building, but the minute it went to the new property, it moved to 65 million pretty quickly. There's a growing amount of concern that I'm hearing from constituents that I'm familiar with that are concerned about the overall price. We're left to defend that. So I'm just wondering what that 15 million, given that in the site planning slide, it didn't seem that there was any environmental or site plan concerns, just 15 million is a lot to slide quickly.
We've always, as far as I can remember, we've been at a $65 million cap on the project. There was no increase on our proposed cost coming off of the previous site on Brick Hill Road to where we are today. Is that what you're asking?
Oh, so we didn't start it? I thought we started at $50 million.
Not.
We actually came down a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
We came down some. Originally, there was a 23% reduction in the size of the building overall from the initial first time that Tecton did a flyover with the police department of what they possibly want, and then we reduced it, I think, about 23% from there going forward. So there was a reduction. That may have been that cost there. I'm not sure, sir.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we're committed to this site, so we don't see any reason that that cost is going to move us off this site. And there was a time when we didn't have a good number or a real number, so there may have been some other numbers floating around. But I think if we go back to the records for the November town meeting where the design funds were appropriated, we were at 65 million at that time.
No questions right now on the finance. Very glad this board voted in favor of the 10% residential tax exemption program as we have these fiscal troubles. Always will bring that up when I get the chance. But I attended the meeting in March, and I just want to say that from a community relations standpoint, from where we started in this process, I just want to commend you guys for how that meeting was ran. And all the abutters were happy. The change you immediately made with the driveway. So that's the blueprint for how we move in this process. I want to thank you for the way that meeting went.
Thank you, and that's the goal of the committee as a whole. We want to keep talking to the community. We want to make the changes. We were fortunate those changes that were proposed at that meeting were easy to make, and quite frankly, it was kind of eye-opening for a few of them there. So we're happy to accommodate the changes that if we can do them and stay within our cost.
Seems like a better site plan too.
Pardon me?
Seems like a better site plan too, actually.
Yeah, overall, I think it fits a little bit better. It kind of flows a little bit better.
Yeah.
So we're happy with that.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions? Please.
Dan Walsh, Precinct 3. I'm trying to figure out what's the outbuilding. You mentioned the shooting range, but I don't know if that's the outbuilding.
So there's an outbuilding on the property, and there's a potential for an indoor modular shooting range on the property, which is located on the eastern border. The outbuilding would have equipment storage that normally needs to be undercover, certain all-terrain vehicles, other stuff like that. There's a wash bay in that outer building.
Thank you.
So. The reason we went to the outbuilding, sir, is that was part of that reduction early on. That outbuilding, for those needs in that building, can be built less expensively in a different type of structure than putting it into the main structure.
One last question.
Sure.
Of all the talk of trying to keep it small, I just was looking at the sergeant's reporting office, and it seems like that might be a little bit small.
Which office, Doug?
The sergeant's.
It's a suite. It's an area, if I recall, it's a suite up in there. We worked with the police department closely. We did reduce that area early on a little bit, but it's a workable size for right now. The other thing you need to remember, too, is the dispatch center. That's a whole different department in the town of Falmouth.
Yeah.
We have the police department, and then you have the dispatch, Falmouth Emergency Communications, which does police and fire dispatch. So we're actually incorporating two different departments into this building, if you want to.
Yeah, but I was just really only referring to what I thought was pointed out was the sergeant's office area. It just kind of looked like it was a little crowded there.
It might look a little crowded, but again, we haven't had any pushback, and everyone's been happy with it.
Okay. All righty. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
We'll see you again soon.
I'm sure. Okay, the next item is to discuss and consider a vote to appoint members to the Lawrence School Building Committee. Mr. Johnson-Staub?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are, as the board will recall, you have already appointed a first tranche of members to this committee, and those members are Select Board Member Doug Brown, Select Board Member Heather Goldstone, School Superintendent Lori Dewar, and Principal of Lawrence School Tom Bushy. The school committee has indicated that it would be supportive of a total of 13 members for this committee. So the board is asked to consider appointing 5 new members this evening. You have 7 committee members that were interviewed at a prior meeting, and the board is may wish to consider the criteria that were set out, the qualifications that were set out by the Massachusetts School Building Association for this committee, and that is community members with experience in architecture, engineering, knowledge of educational mission and function of school facilities, and/or construction experience. And of course, you do have some of those qualifications represented already among the 8 members that you've already appointed.
I mean, in addition, I think there were 2 school committee members that have been appointed. But in any event, I think we've narrowed it down. There are 8, and we want to be no more than 13. So we have 7 very qualified individuals, all of whom appeared for interviews at the meeting a couple of meetings ago. Mr. Bandini, Dr. Taylor, Mr. Duffany, Ms. Jassen, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Zamori. I just want to remind the members, I'm sure they've seen it, but we did receive an email from Lynn Whitehead expressing support for Dr. Taylor's application. And we also received, the day after the interview, a very heartfelt and passionate email from Ms. Jassen indicating further her desire to be on the committee and why she would be a good committee person. So I don't know how we want to go forward, if we want to just take one at a time and see how people feel about them within the criteria that Mr. Johnson-Staub laid out for us.
Are you guys locked in on 13 members?
At this point, yes, we are. And so that would mean that we would be picking 5 out of the 7 at this point. And that's as a result of discussions with the, I mean, honestly, 13 is a big committee, to be honest with you. But we wanted to have, there was a number of appointees that were more or less required. And now we're dealing with the construction, engineering, architecture, knowledge of the education and the mission and so forth. So, and we want to have good community involvement, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Just before we get into however we're going to do it, whether it's individually or a slate, I'd just like to say that all applicants would indeed be great on this committee. I think the new names that we have show a chance for a new guard to help, but that's not taking away anything from Dr. Taylor or Mr. Duffany. I think the slate looks great. I'm excited for the new folks, and I hope that we can find a good balance, because it's not often that we get so many new names on something. So I'm really pleased by the outpouring for the folks that want to be on here.
Actually, I'm a little less prepared to knock some names off. When I asked about this at the last meeting, I thought the answer was that we could put all the people on if we wanted to. So now we got to cut the.
That would be my preference.
Now we got to cut the team a little. I would be a little more careful and a little more thoughtful about this process if I had known that that was going to be the number. Because honestly, I was impressed with all the candidates.
I think we all are impressed. I mean, I think I think we felt, and I still feel that, honestly, 13 is probably a little much, actually. 15 would be terribly unwieldy, in my opinion. Possibly we could think about alternates. I don't know if that has been thought. This is going to be a very the duration of this committee is going to be for a while, so maybe we could appoint 5 and consider 2 alternates as a possibility.
That's one tactic, I guess. Like I said, I just wish I knew that I had to think more critically about it in advance.
What would you? I mean, I don't think we're under any major time constraint.
Kind of let's play devil's advocate for a second, which is if we're already unwieldy at 13, what's another 2 people? I mean, in all honesty.
Yeah, I wasn't really a party to the conversation. I know the town manager and the school superintendent spoke. I will just say, from my own judgment, I think 13's really too many. It's on the large side. It's for my personal comfort level, it's a little too big for a functional committee when you get down to the logistics of scheduling meetings.
But we're already there.
Well, I mean. Okay. That's your discretion. The alternates, I don't know that there's been any discussion. Certainly, I have not had any discussions with the school superintendent or the school committee members about the whole concept of alternates. I assume it's not prohibited if the board has flexibility with respect to the size of the committee. I presume you could appoint alternates, and the advantage of that is it gives you a cushion on the quorum. So it's helpful in that regard.
I will say that going forward, notwithstanding Mr. Reed's very apt comment about new blood, that I think this committee needs also people who have been in the community for a long time, involved with the schools and involved with projects such as construction or renovation of a school such as the Lawrence School. So, I'm certainly supportive of those individuals. But if, and again, this was kind of a discussion that was between the town manager and the school superintendent, and rather than make a decision until we've had an opportunity to discuss it further, I'd maybe consider tabling this at this time until our next meeting, so we can get some clarity about alternates and size of the committee.
So that would mean, just to be clear, putting it off till May 4th, and I don't know what the timeline was to get this committee actually convened.
Yeah, I was under the impression they wanted to start meeting in May. Right. I think there is some urgency. I can't give you a concrete reason, but my impression was that there was some urgency, and I suppose the board could appoint an initial complement and potentially expand the committee after its first meeting.
I do know, as a member of the committee already, that they have begun making site visits to other recently constructed schools, and the next tour of, I believe, multiple sites is on May 4th. So having additional, ideally the entire committee together by that time would be advantageous. And I certainly hear that this is an embarrassment of riches in terms of the slate that we got. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Reed that in addition to some truly veteran leaders in our community, we heard from a number of folks, in most cases, names and faces that were not familiar to me, who bring immense expertise, multiple school building projects, and construction and finance and other expertise in this area that I think would be incredibly valuable. So if the rest of the board, Mr. Brown, hearing your concerns, I'm certainly ready to put some names out there to nominate some additional members to the committee.
Sure. I have, and again, all the applicants are incredibly talented and 100% qualified. I think we should appoint, 5 tonight and then do 2 alternates if possible, or expand if possible at a future meeting. The 2 candidates that I would like to nominate are Stacy Jason and Dr. Nancy Taylor, are the 2 that I would like to put forward. I think.
I'd second those 2.
I would like to add to that list Mr. Skip Bandini. His experience with the Massachusetts School Board Association or School Buildings Association, I think, is really, really invaluable in this process, and something that the committee does not have. I also agree, as every member of this board or of this committee, despite its rather large size, is also going to need to wear multiple hats, and Ms. Jason brings, in addition to professional expertise, brings her experience as a parent in the district, and there are only a couple or a few of us on this committee so far that have the parent perspective. So
I'm not a parent.
So I agree that Ms. Jason, Dr. Taylor, and Mr. Bandini, I would support all 3 of those.
I would like to add Mike Duffany, even though he's a veteran of this, but I don't see any reason to disqualify somebody for experience.
I agree. I think Mr. Duffany has done a lot for this town, has been involved in a number of applications, I believe, as a graduate of Lawrence School, and I would certainly feel that he would be a good addition to the committee. So,
did we get Mr. Duffany's graduation year at town meeting?
I don't think it was quite as long as Mr. Latimer's, but close. So, do we have consensus on Mr. Bandini, Dr. Taylor, Mr. Duffany, and Ms. Jason?
Yes.
So a motion and a second. Do we have a motion, Mr. Richardson?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of those 4 anyway at this point, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we are faced with Mr. Lewis, Mr. Barrett, and Mr. Zamore, all of whom are well qualified and fit within that rubric of new faces. So I've looked at their resumes, as I'm sure all of us have. I was particularly impressed with Mr. Lewis's application, and I would move his nomination.
I would agree that I think Mr. Lewis's application rose to the top for me for his combination of professional experiences. So. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, so that's our 5. They're moved, they're on the committee, and let's hold, with respect to Mr. Barrett and Mr. Zamora, for further discussions between the town manager and the school superintendent about expanding the membership to 15 and/or to consider alternates. And we thank all of the applicants for their interest. Okay?
Great.
Yes.
All right. Well done. Thank you. We are now we have 2 license agreements that we're going to deal with, but I turn to either Mr. Johnson-Staub or counsel to give us a little bit of a background as to why we're going to license agreements as opposed to what's been done in the past, MOUs.
Sure, I can kick that off, and then certainly if the board has any questions, town council will be happy to respond. So we have tonight, just to start off with the first license, the Falmouth Commodores, obviously very well known and beloved by the community, and they have been calling Gov Fuller Field their home for more years than actually, I should know that number because there was just an anniversary, but I don't recall what the number is. In any event, we have been operating in the past under a memorandum of understanding. The most recent one expired December of 25. Town council has advised that a license agreement is a better method for addressing this situation because it is used for transactions like this where organizations are allowed to use town property to the exclusion of other entities, and it is contemplated that they will make some improvements to the property, including affixing structures to the land, whereas an MOU is simply a generalized term for an agreement that does not accurately describe the relationship between the town and the licenses. So with that said, the license agreement that is before you has been drafted by Town Council in consultation with Julie Williams-Tinkham, your Recreation Director, and myself, and in consultation with the Commodores, and we do have 2 members of the Commodores who are with us tonight, should you have any questions for them. The terms of this license agreement are not dramatically different from the terms that were previously spelled out in a memorandum of understanding, although the form has changed. One change that we did ask for relating to the Select Board's change of venue meeting here is that we did ask them to avoid scheduling Commodores games on Monday nights, because when they have a game here, they fill up every single parking spot here and at 300 Dillingham and the surrounding area. So they have agreed to that. There are some points in the schedule that they cannot control. All of the scheduled home games are scheduled well in advance, and they can avoid Monday nights for those games. What they cannot control in advance is rain dates, and in the fortunate circumstance of making the playoffs, those are scheduled beyond their control as well, and could well be scheduled on a Monday night. So we talked about that, and we came up with what we feel is a workable compromise, where later this evening I will be asking you to consider moving some of your scheduled meetings in August, each of them a week later. That would avoid any conflict with the playoffs. And in the event that there is a conflict with a rain date, what we would do is mark off 50 spaces for the meeting, so they would be left open during the Commodores game, so that there is parking available for the meeting. And the Commodores have offered to staff that, to mark it out and staff it to make sure that that we do have those spaces for a Select Board meeting if there is a conflict.
I mean, we also discussed the possibility of meeting back at Town Hall in those instances, and as opposed to this, marking off 50 spots and, policing it and, so forth. So certainly something we can think about as well as an alternate.
Sure, and depending on how much notice we have.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
So with that, happy to take any questions that the board may have.
A couple of questions. The term through the end of 2029, any particular reason? It's like 3.5 years. Any particular reason for that term or license?
Yeah, so I think we just wanted to run it to the end of a calendar year is the date, that's the term that we've been looking at. And 3 years just, allows an opportunity to revisit if, any of the terms need to be adjusted. But no real science behind it. It's just, more than 1 year at a time and not too long.
And the schedules provided by December 1st of the previous year, is that realistic, and what's driving that?
That's their normal procedure, as I understand it.
Either
one. Chris Fitzgerald, president of the Falmouth Commodores. The schedule begins conversation in November-ish, October, November. We send it, the Cape League sends it down to Johns Hopkins, where they put it through an algorithm, and the schedule is spit out and sent back, and it goes back and forth. Preliminary schedule should be available by that date. The final one that's published, probably maybe January, so.
Okay, I've never, frankly, tried to look at the schedule for the Commodores before about May, so.
There's a lot that goes into it between the different teams and the different fields, and it's a lot.
Excellent.
Okay.
You ready? You ready for the season?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready
Make the
for
playoffs this
summer.
year?
Ready for
Make
summer.
the playoffs this year?
That is the goal.
It's
and,
not a guarantee, right?
If it was, I'd put it in here, trust me.
All right, good luck.
Can we make a
you. And then I
motion
would
to
just-
approve the grant of licenses presented? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just going to say, I know the schedule has already been posted, but there is the one Monday on July 20th, Brewster at Falmouth. There was no select board meeting scheduled for that day, so it wasn't deemed conflict, but I just wanted to mention that. so you guys are aware.
Thank you. Yes, we were aware of that. Yep.
Okay, Mr. Reed has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, multiple seconds. The motion in multiple seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to the Youth Lacrosse League.
So the next item before you is a license agreement for Falmouth Youth Lacrosse for their use of the George Gaspa Sports Complex located at 900 Sandwich Road. This would be the first. The Lacrosse Association has not taken responsibility for substantial improvements in the past, so there has not been an MOU or a license agreement in the past. They do have plans to carry out some improvements, and we wanted to lay out a legal structure that clarifies the roles of the parties so that they could do that. And of course, this is not for exclusive use of the field, so we would be following the normal practice in terms of they would be scheduling, and then when there are days that they're not scheduled, there are other groups that use those fields as well.
Does this mean now that all, if they haven't already, all clubs need to be getting a license for use of town fields?
So if they're making improvements, then we want to have a license agreement with them. So if they're just, we do have a number of organizations that use fields that, don't participate in the maintenance or provide any capital improvements, and those are simply scheduled as rentals, and there isn't a license agreement required.
Where does the Little League fit into that category?
They have the Falmouth Youth Baseball, or the Cal Ripken. It's not technically Little League. I think they're under the Cal Ripken rubric. Yes, they have had an MOU, and so that will be one that is going to come before the board.
Okay. All right, Mr. Reed, you want to make a motion again? Okay, I think we have a motion and a second to consider a vote to approve a license agreement for Falmouth Youth Lacrosse use of the George Gaspa Sports Complex. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now to the August calendar that Mr. Johnson-Staub just mentioned.
Right, so the only change here is for the month of August, and it is purely driven, as was mentioned, by the desire to ensure that the Commodores make the playoffs this year and that we don't have a conflict.
Motion to move the revised select board meeting schedule as presented, mainly because it opens up my birthday, one of those weeks that we're moving. Yep.
I wish to remove my second. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, for the potential for retail cannabis sales in Falmouth. This was an item that has been asked for by Member Richardson. Mr. Johnson-Staub, do you have some background here for us with respect to the issue of retail cannabis sales in Falmouth?
Yes, thank you. And I believe that Mr. Richardson is aware that the town has previously voted to prohibit the non-medical purpose marijuana establishments in town. But just quickly to review those. So there was a town election May 16th, 2017, where the town voted by a vote of 4,533 to 2,514 to approve the following question. Shall the town of Falmouth prohibit the operation of one or more types of marijuana establishments within the town and adopt the following bylaw relative to marijuana not medically prescribed to be included in the Code of Falmouth, Chapter 156, Peace and Good Order? And that was followed, so that
So a yes meant a no.
correct. That was a yes to adopt a bylaw that prohibited non-medical marijuana.
Same way the state ballot is apparently worded as well.
And
Yes
then,
means a no.
and then there was a, following that election ballot vote, there was a town meeting vote to adopt a zoning bylaw. The first was a general bylaw, the second was a zoning bylaw, and the zoning bylaw mirrored prohibiting non-medical marijuana establishments. So the procedure, if the board were inclined to pursue allowing non-medical marijuana establishments to be licensed in town, the procedure would be a ballot vote and a town meeting vote to undo those adoptions.
That would also require, the planning board would also be involved with respect to the issue of the zoning.
Correct. Right.
So thank you, Peter, for the background. The
Mr.
reason
Richardson.
I have been wanting to talk about this is I think, I was 14, 10 years ago, so I obviously didn't know the politics then, but I think that the politics now and the science now behind marijuana has really changed in some of the regulations we have here in Massachusetts. So I think that, and I've been hearing from a number of not only constituents across town, but also from a number of interested business owners who are in this space, and they think Falmouth would be a tremendous place to have a dispensary. And I'm not saying we need five, 6, or 7 of them, but when I can name dozens and dozens of folks who are driving just to Mashpee or to Bourne or to Sandwich, and we're losing that tax revenue to nearby towns in a time of. I'm honestly approaching this more from a revenue standpoint of there's a key percentage we're missing out on of a key business that is big, and I was talking with in my former State House role, Senator Fernandez is vice chair of the Cannabis Commission. The average person who's purchasing marijuana now is a 60-year-old woman who's purchasing CBD gummies. So the whole business model has completely changed from what it was 10 years ago, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions on it. And I think that even if we just ask for one in town, I think that would be a big revenue source. And I've heard from constituents, I don't like to look on Facebook, but on the other day in one of the Facebook forums, people were asking, well, why don't we have this in town? I guess they haven't heard me for the last 6 months, but I think that this is something where the politics have rapidly changed because of the science and because of the regulation on it. And I think that we are in a position, to may potentially propose a change. I will say to the ballot initiative, Mr. Chair, I did meet with owner of a dispensary, guy who owns a dispensary in Carver the other day. So it's really interesting what happens in that ballot initiative. I'll say the lead petitioner of it and the group behind it is an evangelical group out of Louisiana, and they have paid people who are running that petition, so it's kind of a bad faith petition. It's not people in the Commonwealth actually looking for change. But if we started the process now, it wouldn't get on the ballot for this, election. It would be after this November election already happens, even if we acted, with the next month of me on the board. It still wouldn't be, the vote on the November ballot would happen before the town referendum. I believe that's correct. I don't know if you guys know otherwise, but so I think it's something I support. I would support action on it. I know this is a discussion item, but I only got a month left. So I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on it, or where you stand.
I'd certainly like to know some of the revenue results from some of the towns that have retail cannabis sales, and whether they've been peaking or going down, or what their experience has been. So it certainly is a potential for revenue. We're revenue strapped. Personally, I don't believe in favor of it, but I certainly think we need to think about it and have a discussion about it because of the potential for revenue in town. So maybe we can start getting some of those numbers from some of the towns together.
I would second that. Sorry.
Go right ahead.
I would second that completely. From a business degree, you quickly look at what is the market, how crowded is it with our neighbors that are already doing it, what would our portion be? Because I think I agree with everything that people have said so far. We do need new revenue. This could be a way to do it, but just how much is it worth the lift or not? But that's where I kind of stand.
I guess I would say with this question, I think there are, for me, 3 legs to this, and yes, revenue is one of them. Community culture is another, and public health is another. And so in addition to the data on revenue, I would really like to hear both from the Substance Use Commission and the Board of Health. I know that this is something that the board has discussed in the past, and based on their experience also with tobacco retailers, I think would have a really valuable perspective for us to bring into this, and perhaps it's something that we do some information gathering and put a question back in front of town meeting to gauge interest, because this was a very strong decision by the town. It was not a close margin, and so there was, and that was both at town meeting and the whole election ballot. And so I think if we're going to reopen that, I agree, a lot can change in 10 years, and a lot has changed in 10 years. But I do think we want to really make sure that we're in step with the community as we pursue this, and it can't just be a revenue decision in my mind.
If I could.
Yeah, Mr. Brown?
I was new on the board when we discussed this, and, legalizing marijuana was a new concept at the time, and we wanted to be cautious, and which we typically do when there's new things, let other people practice if they're more, more anxious to seek that revenue. And so at the time, we just felt like it wasn't worth being the ones to be practicing it. And also at the same time, there was some concern about how the society impacts would roll out. And we also at that time, I don't know if people are aware, but we maintained a $300 fine for smoking in public places, smoking marijuana, because we were concerned that it was just going to be, like a free-for-all, like hippies on the library lawn and whatnot. So we did keep that.
I heard that
fine.
For a while.
So anyway, that was the thinking at the time. Maybe it is time to look at it again and think about it again. But I agree with Ms. Goldstone's comments that we really need to think it through, because we face the problems of addiction. I read articles now that it's not like your grandmother's marijuana anymore. It's really powerful, and it's not a minor thing to think about. So we'll have to really think carefully about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to start the conversation on it. Fortunately, I'm not seeking re-election, so future members, keep an eye on this one. I appreciate your all openness to it, and you're absolutely right, Dr. Goldstone. It was a resounding no, but there's been a lot of votes in recent history. I think if you did them again, they would be different.
Yeah.
So
no, I think it's healthy to revisit something that has changed so much in 10 years. But again, just given the strength of that vote, I think it's important to keep gauging where the community is on this.
Okay. The next item, which is Mr. Brown's item that he has asked to have a discussion on with respect to correspondence and media inquiry practices. I will say that I think the issue that we had with Seacoast Shores earlier this evening and the trove of emails that came in did focus me on the question of we need to make sure we're all on the same page as to what happens to emails that are sent to us individually and not necessarily, to the entire select board. In a number of the emails that I forwarded to the members over the weekend, I realized that they were addressed just to me, and were not going to necessarily going to the town manager or the select board or individual members. I felt that they were all important for this evening's discussion. That's why I forwarded them. But I guess the question is, when we do get individual emails, how do we respond? Should we share them with other members? At what point do we share them with other members? So it's open discussion.
Well, that wasn't really the reason I was asking to have it on. What I'm hoping for is that we can reconsider a policy that was not a formal policy, but it was in place when I was on the board many years ago, and it remained a policy for quite a while, be it informal or not, which was that either the chair the vice chair, the town manager, or assistant town manager, one of the four, whoever felt most inclined, which, sometimes the questions are really something that only a town manager or assistant town manager is qualified to answer, because it's more of a mechanics of government and, questions that are appropriate for that. But others are very appropriate for the chair or the vice chair to answer. Why hasn't the select board talked about this? Why does the select board not feel bowling alleys are important, or something that's a political? And when will we talk about this? The chair sets the agenda, and the chair can answer some of those emails. And just, to me, it takes some of the load off the town manager, who is very busy. And the most important thing, I feel like, is whoever's answering should copy the whole board, so we all know that somebody's been getting a response. Because right now, they're just getting, for the most part, an automated response saying, all members of the board have received your email. And then I hear from people that, geez, I know I got this automatic response, but is it really, are you really getting these messages? Because it's not a personalized response in many cases.
But then isn't the procedure then, Doug, to say, well, let's get this on the agenda and discuss it, as opposed to, engaging in an email chain or conversation with a member of the public, as opposed to, where the board has come to, maybe hasn't come to a decision.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that you get into a debate with the people, but you acknowledge. And sometimes you can say, I'm sorry to say that the board has already talked about that, and, we've been through it. Maybe you missed it. Sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes you just say, we'll put this on for discussion at some point in the future. Or sometimes you might say, I agree, this is urgent, and we'll address it as soon as possible. Those are the only kind of responses that people are expecting, is just acknowledgement and, whether or not you're going to take action. Sometimes no is the answer, but, at least they should get an answer, not just an automated response. And we should know, so we don't have to wonder.
My only thing is, I think there are some issues, we obviously, we all don't agree on everything, which is how this works. But I think with the respective, there's some items where it's like, I want to have a conversation with the person to learn more and give my opinion, not the board's opinion. I think it's appropriate to respond as an individual.
If it's an individual email to an individual select board member asking about individual support or non-support for an item, I don't think it's inappropriate for me to respond to a person. If they reach out to me individually, I don't think it's inappropriate to say, defending my position on why I voted for something, or, just explaining to them whatever it is they're asking about.
I think we have that. I think that's our individual rights if we want to do that or not. I think I'm okay with that as an elected member, to say, this is why I did this. This is revenue problems, Colin. This is what you did to us. Now we got to turn the lights off. Yeah, I don't feel. I don't feel super strongly about it, but I like to respond to people and say, hey, this is why I did this.
Yeah.
Doug, I hear you in terms of a fully automated response not necessarily being very satisfying. I don't, and I think there's probably an intermediate step, and I've seen this in action on the school committee, where there's a fairly standardized response because you can't deliberate. It's on, the entire board is on that email, and so it's some fairly standardized language, but it's not immutable, and it is actually, in the case of the school committee, there's an elected secretary who's responsible for that communication, so that's not an additional, yet another additional responsibility of the chair. But whoever that is, right, there's a little bit of discretion to say, we discussed this last week, you might review that meeting, or that's already on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, right? Information that is not deliberation that any member of the board would have, and the ability to tailor that response a little bit within the bounds of open meeting law. I think there's an additional challenge, which beyond us talking about this and whether it ends up in the enterprise or not, or on FCTV, however many people see that this was a discussion, how we also educate folks, because I've had the conversation countless times to explain, we can't get back to you with our personal thoughts on X, Y, and Z, because that email came to all members of the board, and for open meeting law reasons, all we can do essentially is reply to say, we got it, we'll talk about it, later as a board, we'll take this under consideration. And every single time, including talking to people who are very involved with the town, the response I got was, oh, well, I guess that makes sense, right? But it hadn't occurred to anybody. So how we also help educate the rest of the community about the constraints that we're working under when we're communicating in these ways that feel really stilted and artificial and cold, that's not necessarily entirely by choice.
Well, yes, Mr. Reed?
Agree with everything that's said. Can we look at the old policy? Just because I have no idea what we're, like,
I'm not sure there's a written policy.
Yeah, it wasn't a written
It
policy.
wasn't
It was
written.
just a practice that we had evolved into, which now has seemed to kind of fade away.
So is the primary thing that you're asking to reinstate that when there's the reply that goes back that says everyone has seen this, that it's on a reply all, so that all members of the select board see that there's been a response?
That's how we were doing it years ago, and it seemed to work, and I agree, it's not deliberating, you're just saying, we'll get to this when we can, we know it's an issue, or...
I mean, saying we know it's an issue is kind of deliberating a little bit.
All
I think
right,
that's
well,
where
maybe I'm not-
No, I mean,
not stating
that's
carefully.
where I'm a little, listen, I'm in full support of, letting people know that we're getting their emails, that they're, being, considered, and action will be taken. But I think there's a very fine line there that we need to be careful of
Certainly.
with respect to OML, open meeting law. So, but we'll continue the discussion now that it's on our radar.
Mr. Chair? if I
Yeah,
could.
please.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce your concern there. Certainly if the board wanted to adopt a policy where a select board chair or vice chair is responding to the writer without copying the board, that's fine. And technically, Doug is correct. If you're very careful and you do it just the right way, you can give some responses and copy all the board, and it's not deliberation. But it's so easy to cross the line into stating an opinion, or this is what I think, this is what the board thinks, as opposed to clearly established facts that are not deliberation. That I think you may want to hear from town council on this as well, but I would be very cautious about having a practice of consistently copying the board on a message from a board member.
And, I certainly think that when the new board is reconstituted or constituted after the May elections, that open meeting law discussion with council would be a good idea.
Just one thing maybe to consider as well as individual media requests. I had gotten a couple. I just turned them down because it was like, I don't want to comment as an individual. That might be something you should review in May.
Okay. All right. Well,
Were we just about to hear something from town council?
Council, I think you were just going to say.
I just wanted to say how proud I am of all of you for being so conscientious about the open meeting law. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Now, the next matter is discussion of the adoption of an artificial intelligent use policy. And Mr. Johnson-Staub, since I think you gathered some of the information for us.
Sure, I'm happy to kick this off. And just to be clear, we're not contemplating adopting a policy tonight. This is purely an initial conversation, and potentially at some point in the future, we could look at adopting a policy. So as probably many of you are aware, there are more and more municipalities adopting an artificial intelligence policy or a generative artificial intelligence policy. And the purposes include to establish guardrails to avoid inadvertent disclosure of confidential information, setting guidelines to mitigate the potential for disseminating inaccurate, misleading, or biased information, but also on the flip side, to encourage safe use of AI to improve efficiency of municipal operations and service delivery, and to enhance transparency and dissemination of accurate information. So we have included in your packet for this meeting sample policies adopted by the towns of Rockland and Brookline. I chose a couple that were slightly different from each other so that you would have some different examples. And tonight we're seeking input in terms of what direction you think we might want to go with crafting our own policy.
Does MMA have anything on this, Peter?
They have held a couple of workshops. Actually, the town of Nantucket was one of the panelists on a workshop that the MMA held recently, but they do not have a model policy at this time.
Well, yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I also think it's incumbent upon us at some point in the very near future to adopt something. I mean, it's just absolutely critical for us to have a policy on this. I think we've got to figure out a way to get that policy drafted and before us. So I'm opening it up for discussion as to how people might think we should go about doing this.
I think you should just copy the Brookline model and just go for it.
Is that the one, the two-pager?
Yeah.
That's pretty simple. Yeah. Mr. Richardson?
I wanted to approach it from a different angle. I think the Brookline one was good as well, but I also am concerned about data centers and I have some friends who live in Virginia, and their communities are being destroyed by multinational corporations just buying houses and destroying them and building data centers. Might be worth considering, and maybe it's a warrant article for town meeting rather than driven by the select board, but I think potentially looking into banning or restricting data centers. They've had very adverse impacts on the environment already, and they're not good. They don't bring jobs to communities either. Something that I think we should be looked into, considering banning in Falmouth.
Yeah, I'll say I think that's a really important discussion. I'm not sure how much that rests with us versus with planning board, but I do think that data centers are a really important concern. What I'm about to say may be informed a little bit by a little bit of trauma from trying to create AI policy at my workplace. But what I would say is that while both of the draft policies were very the example policies were very thoughtful and different discussion, I think there were parts of those policies that we should really look at adopting, like the revisions history and the roles and responsibilities at the end of the policy. What I'm struck by looking at those policies and reading through the other information and just thinking about my experience with AI is that one of the first challenges is it's hard to even define what we mean. And part of that is because AI is this big sprawling thing that in a lot of cases is just the evolution of algorithms and machine learning algorithms that's been happening for decades. And there are some very new things, and there are some other things that are not as new. And then do you also include the automation algorithms that are built into all sorts of software now? Do you even know if you're using AI? And I think that difficulty in even defining what it is has prompted me to look at it a different way, which is what are the actual things that we're concerned about that AI is pushing us to think about more? AI is not the problem. Cybersecurity, data privacy, intellectual privacy or intellectual property, work quality, environmental concerns, those are the concerns or the problems that we need to solve for. And I think we might be better served by looking at what our I guess policies are, but all of these are essentially workplace policies, and I also wonder how much of that is select board versus I mean, it's literally at my workplace, it's in the handbook, right? These are the expectations. Whether it is a human being or an AI chatbot that helped you develop your ideas, you're expected to disclose who informed your work product. Whether it has AI involved or not, or is as ChatGPT, you cannot put private data into a web-based application that has not been approved by IT. Right? Is that a select board policy or is that just a workplace policy? But I think there are some nuts and bolts things that we don't have to necessarily pin down what is AI and have an AI policy to address these concerns that generative AI in particular at the moment is raising for us.
I will say I wondered the same thing about many aspects of the policy did seem to be town manager's domain. Maybe some others are not, and I took note that Brookline and Rockland, I'm not as familiar with the town charter, honestly, in Rockland. I think it's not as strong town manager as Falmouth, but I believe Brookline is a little closer to Falmouth. So I was...
And I'm not trying to toss a hot potato. I'm happy to have that conversation. I just, to me, it doesn't necessarily feel like what we need is some big AI policy, in part because it's going to change in 3 months and 6 months, and right. And so addressing those underlying issues of what is it pushing the boundaries of and figuring out how to address those feels to me like the better way to go.
Well, I'm just concerned that if we don't adopt it or stress the town manager role in it, that we might face some liability at some point in time without having such a use policy. So anyway, again,
Do you have
it's
any
like the other
examples
three,
of those?
we're starting the discussion.
Ms. Marscali, do you have any examples of litigation that is ongoing that?
You know, none come to mind, but I couldn't say that it's not possible. There's a litigious society, and if there's something that happens that, somebody in the workplace, used AI improperly, and we didn't have a policy of some sort, there could be some responsibility, whether it's legal or, just, out in the newspapers. It could come back to and affect us. So
I mean, I would argue the same
as
is true, though, whether or not it's AI, right? If data is shared irresponsibly, then data is shared irresponsibly, and there's a liability for that. I mean, Mr. Johnson-Staub, do we have, I should probably know this, but do we have a cybersecurity policy, do we have policies or guidance for staff on data handling, cybersecurity, those sorts of things?
Yes, so we do have a policy on the use of information technology resources that would address that, and we have training around protected personal information. And at this point, we're probably behind the curve in terms of using AI. I do think that there are some simple applications that could be helpful for productivity that we're not using, and I do think, I do think having the guardrails in place, even if, we're still sort of working on the question of what exactly is AI and where is it that we don't even think it is. I think some simple, and it may be at the town manager level where we just have a simple policy that says, look, here are the cautions, here are the things that you cannot do, but let's by all means start looking at ways that we can improve our productivity with proper involvement of whether it's the town manager or the IT department, depending on what the use case is.
That's the other thing I was going to say is training for staff is an incredibly important part of this equation, not just policies.
So the Brookline one is the longer of the two, and it's
correct.
Got a lot of details, and I mean, I would say just review this, and if there's anything that needs to be added to be applicable to Falmouth, you got a pretty good template here.
We could certainly use that as a starting point, Doug, you're right.
And the sooner the better, because as you said, how many things could you do so much more easily, like press releases and just every day-to-day stuff?
I do think there is definitely a values component to also thinking about how we use AI and ensuring that, and I think there was the description in one of the background documents of humans in the loop, humans on the loop, humans, I don't know, over the loop. It was all sorts of the basic idea being that, at least in their opinion, and certainly in my opinion, AI should never be in the lead and should never be making the decisions. It should be a support to human decision makers, human creativity, human activity. And so making that's one thing that if we're going to adopt a policy, I would feel really strongly about a stance that this is not to replace people. And it needs checking and hand-holding and oversight. And replacing people is not my goal, period, even if we could.
Absolutely. But do you use it on like texting?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Yes, I use autocorrect. Sometimes I curse at autocorrect. But we have machine learning and AI in various forms so embedded in our lives that we sometimes don't recognize even what it is, right? Yes, I don't use Grammarly, but like, you know, I've got spell checker, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
learning, that's pattern recognition. I tend to find that AI summaries of my emails are gobbledygook, and I try to disregard them,
I
right?
agree.
But so there's variable quality, and it requires a human mind to actually think about it.
Absolutely,
not just
absolutely. But
parrot
like
it.
right now, if I get a text, I look at it and I've got two choices. Sure, I can help with that, or no, I'm sorry, I can't. And you just click one. So you mean the human still chooses?
Right, and I'm like that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't touch AI. I'm not saying that at all. Any shyness I have about an AI policy is just because it moves so fast that I think pinning it down and trying to create a policy that is specifically around AI is
That's kind of what they said about the internet, right?
doomed to be.
Maybe our policy should be that
Sisyphean.
we authorize the town manager to just deal with it in any way he feels is appropriate, because that's really where I feel like it belongs anyway.
All right. Well, as I said, we started the discussion. So the last item is to vote to execute the May 19th, 2026 election warrant. Mr. Johnson Staub.
Thank you. So we have two agenda items, two ballot questions for the town election. Both relate to charter changes which have been voted by town meeting as well as this board. The first is relative to the town clerk transition from elected to appointed, and the second with respect to establishing a licensing commission. And you have in your packet the specific content of the ballot measures proposed for the election ballot. Happy to take any questions.
Motion to approve.
So the motion will be to execute the May 19th, 2026 election warrant as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Is that enough?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to the minutes of February 25th, 2026, March 9th, 2026, and March 23rd, 2026.
Motion to approve minutes as presented.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anyone have select board reports this late hour?
I have a quick report. I should have probably said it in announcements, but tomorrow is the meeting for the crosswalk improvements project at Route 28A and Route 151. And I printed out a large set of the plans.
Is that the roundabout?
No,
or-
the roundabout's gone away.
That's done, right?
And now it's a simplified crosswalk improvement where they're going to be, I believe, adding new curbing, but in the same footprint as the existing roadway layout. And they're going to be changing the islands. Instead of planters, it looks like they're going to top them with concrete. We'll see what the Village Association might want to comment on that. They like to plant them, but it is kind of dangerous out there. And I see the new configuration of the crosswalk walks right through those two little islands, the traffic islands. But the big improvement is the crosswalk safety features, the push-button lights, so that walkers can safely cross, and the road sensors, so that if there's no cars in the parking spot, the traffic light doesn't change to keep the traffic moving more quickly. And I imagine that also would include the upgrade for the public safety. You know, when the fire truck's coming along, they can switch the light to enable them to cross quickly. So personally, I'm pretty happy with the that they've toned it down and got rid of the roundabout. And if anybody's interested, I can send the link, but I'm going to attend it and I'll report back to you.
I had originally wanted to attend it, but I wanted to also get over to the Farming Falmouth meeting tomorrow.
Right.
So,
I spent today and will be back tomorrow at the Cape Coastal Conference. A lot of really interesting talks and sessions. Spent part of the morning at a session that laid out a toolkit for communities to work their way through climate resilience planning and prioritization that was honestly a little overwhelming, but really interesting. And I can share that, Mr. Johnson-Staub, with you so that that can be potentially shared with the board. Some interesting projects presented this afternoon on use of dredge spoils in ecological restorations and best practices in ecological restorations. Multiple members of the beach committee were in attendance, as was our coastal resilience coordinator, Josh Wrigley, split up at some of the different sessions, and Josh will actually be the keynote speaker tomorrow morning, presenting our surf drive project. So I'm excited to be back there for that and not only hear Josh's update, but kind of hear what the discussion in the room is around that project.
Good.
I'll just report that the town manager and I, Mr. McConerty, and some staff had a very good conversation with the DOT. You may have heard that they wanted to put a bus stop on Woods Hole Road, essentially where the rock and the anchor are for the old stone dock, which we felt was a very foolish location. And originally DOT was very adamant that they were not going to change the location, that they had started to, do the work. And thanks to Senator Fernandez, whose legislative team got in touch with DOT, we were able to have a very good conversation, and they have agreed to put the bus stop in a different location further down on Woods Hole Road towards the Cape Cod Apartments. So, thanks to Senator Fernandez for doing that, and thanks to to DOT for listening for once. We appreciate it.
I got one more thing I wanted to share. That last week I attended virtually. The Inspector General went over to Nantucket and had a sort of a hearing to hear from the Nantucket residents about the report that they put out on the Steamship Authority's missteps with the website and so forth. And that was informative. I did comment only to say that I hope that when there is legislative overview, they think about the fact that they've just raised their debt ceiling from $100 million to $150 million, and they're spending a lot of that money now between the new terminal and the new boats, and think about the impact of the ticket price of what that might be in the future. Because at the start of the meeting, Senator Sear said, one thing we all appreciate is how the Steamship Authority always pays their own way with the fare box. But it seems that that is probably going to change, so I hope that they're keeping that on their radar. And then they had another meeting today. I just listened today because I don't want to take up the time. There was a large group of vineyard folks that were there talking, and they had a lot of good points. A lot of the comments that you hear from folks in Woods Hole, you're hearing similar comments from the folks on the island now, so
Yeah,
it's not that
I was
different.
wondering why the OIG didn't consider coming to Falmouth as well as Nantucket and the Vineyard. It would have been a nice development for
He was not discounting that today.
Okay.
And he did point out that he seems to always get invited off-season, so maybe if we invite him in July, he'll be happy to come.
Just FYI, but at our May 4th the board meeting with Mr. Kriska, the new general manager, is going to be coming to introduce himself and talk with us. So that'll be a good thing. Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Hold on, can I add in a couple future agenda requests? One is maybe at the financial meeting we have on the 27th or thereafterwards, discussion regarding a temporary moratorium on all fee waiver requests until we discuss a potentially updated policy. Therein, second, I know it's on Mr. Renshaw's list, but receiving the after-action review from the winter recovery. And then 3, related to that, is an after-action review of crisis communications, both for the winter recovery and our school safety. I think the duties of a public information officer and having that evaluation would be very helpful. Thanks. Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
FCTV.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services, including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their #1 goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Falmouth Select Board Chair Bob Miscali and Town Manager Mike Renshaw are recapping Select Board meetings on FCTV's newest series, Select Board Report. Watch new episodes of Select Board Report Thursdays, live at 5, at fctv.org or on YouTube. Have a question about what happened at the last Select Board meeting? Ask our host by visiting fctv.org/watch/SBR. Proudly serving the New England area, K&K Talent Partners provide a personalized approach to full cycle recruiting services.
Their level of integrity and empathy is rare, and it speaks volumes about who they are as people and as recruitment partners.
Our goal is to build trusted relationships and to create genuine connections that help companies grow.
K&K Talent Partners, kktalentpartners.com.
At Martha's Vineyard Bank, we know Falmouth, with locations in Woods Hole, on Palmer Avenue, and the Village Green. We deliver personal banking tailored to your needs, business solutions to help you grow, flexible lending to move you forward, and investment strategies that work for you. Whatever brings you in, we're your local partner. Martha's Vineyard Bank, your goals, our guidance.